Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
As Xavier unlocked the door, the smell of smoke and beer hit him first. The living room was a war zone of broken furniture and shadows that moved wrong. Then came Jade's voice, shaking from the top of the stairs. "Dad, Eugene's been here every night since you left." Before he could answer, a booming laugh erupted from the kitchen. A man stepped out, half smirking, holding a half-empty beer. "So you're the famous pilot," he sneered. "Your wife said you wouldn't mind me keeping her company?" Xavier's pulse froze, dread and fury rising. His homecoming had just turned into a battlefield. Xavier Kincaid could almost taste the dust in the back of his throat as he zipped up his flight jacket for what felt like the last time. He'd spent 12 long years flying combat missions in the desert region near Gaza, clocking hours few men could imagine, hours that turned adrenaline into routine, routine into muscle memory, and muscle memory into a second skin that he now wore like armor. Standing there, in the dim fluorescent haze of the makeshift locker room, he wondered if he would ever be able to peel that armor off. He was almost home. His bunkmate, a young guy named Cochran, sidled up with a lopsided grin. "You're shipping out first thing in the morning, right? Damn, man, I wish I could see the States again." Xavier didn't feel the usual excitement. Something else weighed on him. "Yeah, morning flight, but let's just say I can't board soon enough." Cochran picked up on the tension in Xavier's voice and gave him a careful look. "You okay?" "Not sure," Xavier confessed, letting out a low exhale. "My wife's last few calls felt strange." Cochran shrugged. "You're probably just paranoid. 12 years in a war zone does that. She's probably just busy with life back home." Xavier nodded but said nothing. He'd learned long ago to trust his gut, and his gut told him that something was off. He might have faced mortar shells, rocket fire, and dangerous flight missions, but this was a new brand of dread creeping in. He slammed his locker shut. Next stop, home. Later that evening, while grabbing his final meal in the base canteen, his phone vibrated an incoming voicemail from Jade, his teenage daughter. It wasn't common for her to leave a voice message. Usually she'd text or wait until their scheduled call. With his heart kicking up, he stepped outside to listen. Jade's voice was a hushed whisper. "Dad, something's wrong at home. I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm scared. Mom's acting weird. There are these guys in the house, and I can't explain it. They come over and stay really late. I think one of them might be Mom's ex-boyfriend, Eugene. He's dangerous." Crackling static cut through the message. Jade's voice trembled even more. "Dad, I don't know who else to tell. Please come home as soon as you can. I'm worried about what they might do." He felt every muscle in his body tense, a rush of protective anger pushing through his veins. Eugene. That name was a sour footnote from Megan's past. The idea that Jade was living under the same roof as this man who was rumored to be into everything from drug trafficking to intimidation, burned a hole through Xavier's calm facade. He replayed the voicemail twice. Each time, the urgency in Jade's tone sharpened his fear. He dialed Megan's phone. Straight to voicemail, again and again. He emailed his superior officer, requesting an expedited departure. It took some last-minute negotiating, but his commanding officer realized if there was ever a soldier who deserved an early flight out, it was Xavier. 15 years of service, and not a single black mark on his record. The colonel rubber-stamped it, telling him, "Family first, Kincaid." That night, Xavier barely slept. His mind churned with scenarios. Jade huddled in some corner, the weight of unknown men stomping across the living room floor, maybe rummaging through personal belongings he'd left behind. He didn't know exactly what was happening, but he knew it wasn't good. And if Eugene really was at the center of it, that spelled trouble. He quietly repeated Jade's last words to himself. "Please come home." He had faced insurgents, missiles, and roadside bombs. But the thought of Jade in danger chilled him more than any battlefield ever did. The next morning arrived in a blur of dusty sunrise and the routine drone of transport vehicles. Xavier slung his duffel over one shoulder, boarded a military transport plane that would take him stateside. Seated by the window, he stared at the tarmac. Nothing but a handful of cargo crates and the silhouettes of a few soldiers patrolling. An acquaintance from another unit, a pilot named Dawson, dropped into the seat beside him. "You look like you're about to punch somebody. Everything okay?" Xavier gave a curt nod, but his clenched jaw told a different story. "Just need to get home. Urgently. Family emergency?" "Something like that," Xavier said, not wanting to reveal more. As the plane took off, a slight turbulence rocked them, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside him. He thumbed a small photograph from his wallet, a picture of Megan and Jade from 4 years ago, the last time he'd been home for more than a few weeks. Megan looked radiant, holding Jade's hand at some carnival. Jade had cotton candy in her free hand, her grin wide and carefree. He found himself whispering, "Hang on, baby girl." It was a nearly 16-hour flight with layovers. Xavier spent most of it replaying every conversation with Megan over the past few months. She'd always been warm, supportive if sometimes anxious about money. Stephanie's medical bills were definitely large, but Megan had always insisted they would figure it out. Then, about 6 weeks ago, her texts got brief. She missed scheduled calls, and whenever they did speak, she seemed jumpy, as though someone else might be listening. At first, Xavier assumed it was her stress or maybe just exhaustion from caring for her sister. But now, Jade's message pulled everything into sharp focus. Something bigger was at play. He felt guilty that he hadn't pushed harder to find out. He dozed in and out, half dreaming of their house red brick, a modest 2-story in a quiet suburban neighborhood. In his nightmare, it was overrun by shadowy figures. Megan stood behind them, silent. Jade was the only one calling for him. He woke up mid-flight with sweat beading on his forehead. The cabin lights were dim, and most passengers were asleep. Only the low hum of the engines accompanied his restless thoughts. Touchdown came in the late evening. Xavier wasted no time picking up a rental car under a slightly altered name. He wasn't sure if Eugene or these men might have eyes on the airport, or if they had connections that would signal them the moment he landed. So he decided to be cautious, using an old friend's discount code so his name wouldn't flag any searches. He hopped into the driver's seat, heart pounding as he navigated the highways toward home. The city lights felt both familiar and alien. Billboards he didn't recognize, new businesses that had sprung up, but the overall skyline, the silhouette he used to see every time he came home from a previous deployment, stirred conflicting emotions in him. This was his place, his territory, but something dark had invaded it. He tried Megan's phone again. Nothing. Jade's phone? Straight to voicemail. Tension coiled in his gut. He rehearsed how he'd approach the house. Should he barge in? Should he watch first? The old soldier instincts kicked in. Always gather intel before striking. When Xavier finally turned onto the street where his home stood, it was close to midnight. He doused the headlights and parked 2 blocks away. The quiet suburban roads felt almost deserted at that hour, just a couple porch lights on, a dog barking somewhere in the distance. He walked quietly along the sidewalk, hugging the shadows. From a distance, he spotted his house. There were indeed strange cars parked in the driveway, a sleek black SUV and a battered old sedan. The front porch light was on, but the curtains in the living room flickered with what looked like multiple silhouettes moving about. Laughter. His breath caught in his throat when he saw Jade step out onto the porch carrying a trash bag. She glanced around anxiously. She looked pale, like she had lost weight. One of the men in the living room yelled something and Jade flinched. She hurriedly shoved the trash bag into the bin at the side of the house. "Dad, where are you?" he heard her mutter under her breath. Xavier's hand curled into a fist. He wanted to run up and grab his daughter, but logic told him it could backfire. She wasn't exactly free to move. If he made a scene, these men might use her as leverage. He would not risk Jade's safety. Crouching behind his neighbor's hedge, he heard the low rumble of male voices from inside the living room. One man, presumably Eugene or one of his cronies, boasted, "Nah, that pilot's not back for another day or 2. Once he sets foot on that porch, boom, he's done." Xavier's blood went cold. There was talk of some special package, and from the tone of it, he could guess it was a lethal plan. He'd come home from war, only to find a new war at his doorstep. He retreated quietly. If they thought he'd arrive in a day or two, that gave him a small window to plan. And from what Jade's voicemail said, they were planning to kill him the second he walked in unsuspecting. Stepping away from the house, he clicked on his phone and called Franklin, an old friend from his Air Force days who had since become a sort of freelance security consultant. If anyone could help him handle this quietly, it was Franklin. Franklin picked up on the third ring, voice groggy from sleep. "Xavier? It's been a while, man. This better be important at this hour." "It is," Xavier said, his words clipped. "I need help. Now." After a moment of silence, Franklin's tone shifted to alertness. "Name the place. I'll meet you." Xavier named a diner about 3 miles away, somewhere they could talk privately. Tucking the phone into his jacket, he climbed back into his rental car and drove off. The entire time, one thought looped in his head. Megan. How could she let Eugene step foot into their home? She had to have known it was dangerous. Was she coerced? Or was she just that desperate? The diner was nearly empty when he arrived. Bright fluorescent lights hummed above booths filled with chipped vinyl seats. The smell of frying oil and stale coffee felt oddly comforting. He slid into a booth in the back corner, eyes scanning for threats. 5 minutes later, Franklin walked in wearing jeans, a black hoodie, and an expression that screamed he was ready for anything. He dropped into the booth across from Xavier. "All right, buddy, fill me in." Xavier told him everything: Jade's call, the strangers in his house, the mention of Eugene. He left out no detail. Franklin listened, drumming his fingers on the table. When the part about the bomb came up, Franklin's eyebrows shot up. "A bomb? In your own damn house?" "Yeah," Xavier said, voice taut. "I'm certain. They're planning to blow me to bits when I step inside, probably rigged the hallway with something." Franklin shook his head. "This is next-level madness. Why would Megan let that happen?" Xavier's jaw worked. "That's the million-dollar question. Jade mentioned her mother acting weird, and we know Megan's sister has cancer. Eugene might have offered money for treatment, but it doesn't excuse letting him terrorize my daughter." He took a sip of water to steady his nerves. "Franklin, I need to neutralize that bomb and get Jade out of there. But I can't just storm the place. They've got guns, and who knows how many men." Franklin nodded. "And you can't trust the cops, because Eugene apparently has connections with crooked officials, right?" "Right," Xavier muttered. "I need a stealth approach, possibly handle it ourselves. Then gather evidence to put these bastards away for good." Franklin leaned forward, dropping his voice. "I've got a buddy who's real good with phone forensics. If your wife's phone is compromised, we can see what she's been texting and who's funneling money in and out of your accounts." Xavier's fists tightened. "You're thinking she might be fully in bed with Eugene?" Franklin lifted a palm. "Or she's blackmailed or threatened. But either way, we need clarity." Xavier glanced at the fluorescent menu above the counter, not really seeing it. "Do it. Anything that can shed light on this." They hammered out a plan. First, confirm Megan's communications. Second, scope out how to disarm the bomb. Third, rescue Jade. And then only then Xavier could think about confronting Megan face to face. But deep down, the betrayal stung like a fresh wound. As they parted ways outside the diner, Franklin gave him a firm handshake. "Keep your head, man. I know you're furious, but Jade's safety is priority number 1. Xavier exhaled, looking up at the quiet night sky. "I won't let them harm her. I'll burn everything they have to the ground if that's what it takes." Back in his car, Xavier parked outside a 24-hour convenience store to connect to some unprotected Wi-Fi. He shot a quick email to confirm the official letter plan, a forged notice claiming his flight had been delayed. If Eugene was monitoring arrivals, it might buy him time. Then he sat there, in the glow of the street lamp, replaying Jade's whispered message from earlier. The fear in her voice made him grind his teeth. Megan might have had reasons, but at this point, Xavier couldn't give her the benefit of the doubt. She had allowed a monster into their home. The lines of trust were already broken. He pictured walking into that living room, men sneering, Jade cornered by them, and a hidden device armed to blow him to pieces. "Not on my watch," he murmured, fists clenched around the steering wheel. Then he started the engine and headed off to find a motel for the night. formulating a dozen different revenge scenarios in his mind, some more brutal than others. But first, he needed that bomb defused. Xavier booked a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. The neon vacancy sign buzzed overhead, flickering. The clerk at the front desk, a middle-aged woman with dyed red hair, barely looked up from her crossword puzzle when he handed over some cash. He used no credit card. He didn't want a paper trail leading Eugene's men to his location. Inside the small room, the walls had that generic stale odor typical of cheap motels. Xavier locked the door, pushed the flimsy dresser in front of it for good measure, then laid out his gear on the bed. He methodically checked each item: a pocket knife, a small flashlight, a phone equipped with an encrypted messaging app, and the single sidearm he'd smuggled back from his deployment days just in case. It wasn't the first time he'd prepared for a covert op, but it sure as hell was the first time it was on U.S. soil, targeting criminals in his own backyard. The irony grated at him. He tried Megan's phone again, straight to voicemail. He tried Jade's phone. No luck. A wave of exhaustion crashed over him, but his mind wouldn't let him rest. Scenes played out in his head. Jade cornered in the kitchen, forced to serve drinks to these guys. Megan sitting in the living room with Eugene, looking terrified or complicit, he couldn't decide which. Did she hold Eugene's hand like a partner in crime, or did she recoil from him in fear? That question gnawed at Xavier, fueling his anger and heartbreak. He pulled out his phone, scrolled to an older photo of Megan. She was smiling, that bright, easy grin that used to light up his world. If she was forced into this situation, he'd find a way to help her, if she was a willing participant. He clenched his jaw. He hated that his heart still twisted at the thought of losing her. At 2 a.m., Franklin called. Xavier answered on the first ring. Franklin's voice was hushed, probably calling from his apartment. Got some initial findings. My phone forensic buddy managed to clone Megan's text messages. She's definitely transferring money from your joint account. Large sums, like thousands at a time. You might want to check your balance, man. Xavier took a calming breath. For what purpose? Franklin sighed. Medical bills for sure, some of it. We see payments to a hospital in Stephanie's name, but then there's also big withdrawals that vanish into Eugene's pockets, or at least into accounts we suspect are tied to him. Could be hush money. Could be interest on a forced loan. Hard to say. A tightness gripped Xavier's chest. So Megan's lying about where the money is going. Looks like it. A short pause, then Franklin said, We also see texts from Eugene. He's threatening her if she doesn't keep Jade in line, or if she tries to reach you. That might explain why she's been distant. Xavier ground his teeth. She could have called me. She could have told me the truth. Maybe she was scared Eugene would cut off Stephanie's treatments, or kill Jade if she squealed. Xavier forced down his anger. Okay, so that's motive. Doesn't make it right. No, it doesn't, Franklin agreed quietly. But it paints a picture. She's cornered, and Eugene's apparently doubling down on his scheme. Xavier inhaled, letting the stale motel air fill his lungs. Tomorrow night, we disarm that bomb. Quietly. We plan from there. Franklin responded with a grim determination. I'll meet you at Ohone 100 behind your street. That works? Works. The rest of the night, Xavier tried to sleep but ended up pacing the small room. An overhead light buzzed. He turned it off. He found himself remembering the day he first met Megan. He'd just returned from a short stateside assignment, feeling out of place in civilian bars. Megan was bright, funny, full of life. She had this unwavering optimism about her little sister beating cancer. She believed in miracles and often teased Xavier about his stoic, soldierly outlook. Now, here they were locked in a crisis that might cost them everything. And Jade was the biggest concern. He typed out a text to Jade. Baby, I'm nearby. Don't worry. Just stay safe. Love you. He didn't even know if she'd see it, but it felt better to reach out. At dawn, he dozed off for a couple hours, but his sleep was restless, filled with half-lucid dreams of bombs, sirens, and Jade crying out for him. Midday, he awoke with a start, hunger gnawing at him. He realized he'd eaten next to nothing for nearly 2 days. He quickly showered, changed into fresh clothes, jeans, a dark shirt, boots that were easy to move in, and left the motel. He grabbed a takeout sandwich from a mom-and-pop store, then parked near a small city library with free Wi-Fi. There, He set up for a few hours, contacting Franklin about final details. They agreed on a plan. Wait until after midnight when Eugene's men might be relaxed or half drunk. Slip into the backyard. Enter through the basement or a ground floor window if possible. Locate and disarm the bomb. Get Jade out of immediate danger, but do it covertly so Eugene remains unaware that the bomb is defused. They'd let him believe it was still armed. Document as much as possible along the way for evidence. A straightforward plan, but rife with potential pitfalls. If a guard spotted them or if the bomb had sophisticated triggers, they were in for real trouble. Xavier also considered ways to handle Megan if she stood between them and Jade. He hated that he even had to think about that scenario, but desperation demanded he be ready for everything. Around 4 p.m., Franklin texted, "Almost ready. My buddy set up a decoy dock at the airport claiming your flight was delayed. Eugene's contact might get that info if he tries to check." Xavier replied, "Good. That'll keep them complacent." He spent the afternoon going over old house blueprints in his head. He knew every nook and cranny of that place. If the bomb was in the hallway, it was likely near the front door or the stairwell, where he'd be forced to step. Could Eugene's men have put a secondary device somewhere else? Possibly. He also worried about Jade. She was just a teenager, probably 15 or so when he last saw her, now edging on 17. She used to be full of laughter, joking about her father's no-nonsense ways. If these thugs had stolen her smile. Xavier's anger simmered. He kept reminding himself, focus. Jade's safety, then revenge if necessary. Night came slowly. Xavier met Franklin in a quiet parking lot behind an abandoned grocery store. Franklin greeted him with a solemn nod, popped open the trunk of his SUV, and showed him the gear they had. A small toolkit for bomb disposal, a set of wire cutters, duct tape, gloves, flashlights with red filters for stealth. "You got your sidearm?" Franklin asked. Xavier patted his concealed holster. "Yeah, last resort." They went over the plan one more time. "We approach from the back alley, hop the fence into your backyard. I'll watch for roving guards while you handle the bomb. If Jade is in sight, we quietly get her out. If not, we regroup and figure out if she's locked in a room." Xavier nodded. "Understood." A pause. Then Franklin's lips tightened. "Xavier, if you see Megan..." Xavier raised a hand. "I won't do anything reckless if that's what you're worried about." Franklin exhaled. "You're my friend, man. I just don't want you losing it in the heat of the moment." "Jade's safety first," Xavier repeated, less for Franklin and more for himself. Midnight found them walking in darkness toward Xavier's old backyard. The air was still, the faint hum of traffic from a distant highway. A single porch light next door gave them partial cover in the shadows. Franklin peered over the fence, saw no immediate guard. They hopped over, landing softly in the grass. Xavier paused, listening for signs of movement. The yard was cluttered with random junk that definitely didn't belong to them: beer bottles, a broken chair. Eugene's men had apparently made themselves at home. A quick glance through the kitchen window showed no one inside. The overhead lights were off, but the living room glowed with a flicker from a TV set. They inched forward. Xavier led Franklin to a small vent leading under the house. It was an old trick. If the basement or crawl space was accessible, they might bypass watchers in the main rooms. But to Xavier's frustration, the vent was blocked from inside. Instead, they circled around to the back door. Through the glass pane, Xavier spotted a guard dozing in a chair, facing the inside of the house. The door was locked, but not heavily secured. Franklin leaned close, whispered, "Could we distract him?" Xavier shook his head. "Might wake the others. Let's check the side window." They found an unlocked window near the downstairs bathroom. Slowly, carefully, Xavier slid it open and crept in. Franklin followed, quiet as a ghost. The tang of cigarette smoke hit them. The house reeked of stale beer, sweat, and something almost chemical. Xavier fought the urge to grimace at what these men had turned his home into. They stood in the hallway, leaning back against the wall. The living room was just around the corner. They heard the low murmur of drunken chatter and the tinny sound of a TV. Eyes scanning the baseboards, Xavier spotted a slight bulge of wiring along the trim. That had to be connected to the bomb. He motioned for Franklin to stay close. They followed the wiring toward the closet under the stairs. There, hidden behind coats and random boxes, was a makeshift device. In the dim light of a small flashlight, Xavier saw it was more amateur than professional, but still deadly. A block of something that looked like plastic explosive, a cheap cell phone timer rig, and a motion sensor taped near the top so it'd catch someone walking through. Xavier hissed under his breath. These guys are reckless, could blow half the house. Franklin handed him the wire cutters, face tense with fear. Xavier knelt, carefully tracing each wire. Green or red, he whispered, recalling all the training from his Air Force EOD days. If the circuit was booby-trapped, cutting the wrong wire might trigger it. His heart hammered as he pinpointed the main line. Meanwhile, Franklin kept an ear toward the living room. Then footsteps upstairs, someone moving. They froze. The footsteps receded and they both exhaled quietly. Xavier signaled with his hand. "Cut now!" He snipped. The device beeped once, then went silent. He located the motion sensor link and disabled that too, removing the battery from the phone trigger. Franklin's eyes flicked downward. Another set of wires snaked behind the baseboard. "What's that?" They realized there was a second charge hidden under the hallway carpet. It took them another excruciating 5 minutes to pry the edge of the carpet up, revealing a smaller device connected to the same phone trigger, possibly to ensure that if the main bomb didn't kill Xavier, the secondary one would. "Damn it," Franklin muttered, voice trembling slightly. "They really wanted you dead." Xavier didn't speak. He focused, his mind going quiet and cold. A few careful moves, and the second device was disarmed. Both bombs, inert. They carefully bagged them. That was when a soft creak on the stairs made them whirl around. Jade stood there, hair a mess, eyes wide. She almost gasped out loud, but Xavier pressed a finger to his lips. Jade hurried down, knelt beside them. "Thank God, Dad." Xavier's throat tightened. "You okay?" She nodded, tears brimming. "Just terrified. Eugene's men keep me in the living room or sometimes the upstairs spare room. Mom, she's not the same, Dad. She's scared, but I can't tell if I don't know. It's all messed up." Franklin quietly stuffed the bombs into a duffel. Jade told them about a second guard up in the hallway near her bedroom, so escaping with her right now might alert everyone. Xavier's eyes flashed with frustration. "We have to get you out of here." Jade shook her head. "If I disappear, they'll know. They'll tear the city apart looking for me. Mom might get caught in the crossfire. She's basically under guard too, in the master bedroom. Eugene isn't here tonight, but he left his men in charge." Xavier clenched his teeth. She had a point. If she vanished now, it'd blow their cover that the bomb was disarmed. He exchanged a fierce glance with Franklin. "We hide the bombs. Let them think it's still armed." Jade guided them to a side door leading to the garage, which was rarely monitored. They slipped out, hearts pounding, the duffel with the bombs in tow. At the threshold, Jade whispered, "Please hurry back." Xavier gently squeezed her shoulder, eyes burning. "I promise I'll fix this, Jade." And then they were gone, melting into the night. Eugene's men never suspected a thing. For now, Jade would stay behind enemy lines, but at least she wasn't in immediate danger of an explosion. Xavier and Franklin regrouped in a rental storage unit near the industrial part of town. The overhead fluorescent lights buzzed in the otherwise quiet space. They carefully placed the bombs into a locked steel cabinet. The adrenaline still spiked through Xavier's veins. He'd defused bombs in war zones, but never under his own roof, with his daughter upstairs. That made it personal in a way that unsettled him. Franklin wiped sweat from his forehead. "We did it, man. God, my heart's still pounding. I'm not made for bomb disposal." Xavier gave a grim nod. "You did good. Jade's safe for now. That's the most important thing." He leaned against the metal wall, exhaling. "But we can't just leave her in there with them. She thinks it's safer to keep the element of surprise, but it's eating me alive." Franklin looked sympathetic. "She's right, though. If she disappears, they'll panic, might harm Megan or set up new traps. We can't rescue Jade until we have a plan to neutralize Eugene's entire operation." Xavier's jaw clenched. "Then let's gather everything we can on Eugene. Let's bring him down. We'll only have one shot at this." They spent the next few hours drafting a strategy. Franklin had a contact named Cole, a former detective who'd gone private after being frustrated with departmental corruption. Cole might help them quietly compile bulletproof evidence. By dawn, they had a rough plan. Evidence collection. Hack Megan's phone thoroughly, find out Eugene's network, his money flow, and any local officials he's bribing. Surveillance. Plant discreet cameras around the house to record Eugene's interactions. Possibly get Jade to slip a small microphone into Eugene's car if she can. Legal takedown. Once they have enough, they'll hand it off to a few trusted allies in the media or the state attorney's office. Make the bust public and unstoppable. Final extraction. The moment they move on Eugene, they'll get Jade and Megan out. It was a delicate dance. One misstep could cost Jade her life, or Megan's. Xavier was torn about Megan. The phone log showed she tried to leave Eugene, but he threatened to cut off Stephanie's chemo and harm Jade. She was in a stranglehold. But still, she hadn't warned Xavier. She'd let Eugene's men practically occupy the house. That betrayal stung. Before they parted, Franklin said, "Let's keep the bomb a secret. Let them think it's still armed. That way they'll assume they have the advantage." Xavier agreed. He rubbed a tired hand over his face. "I'm going to catch a couple hours of sleep, then I'll contact Cole. Meet me tonight, same diner." Franklin nodded. "All right, and hey, we'll get Jade out in one piece, I promise." Xavier managed a tight smile. "We better." In the motel room, Xavier dozed off, haunted by images of Jade's wide eyes in the dark hallway. He jolted awake around noon to the sound of his phone buzzing. He grabbed it instantly, hoping it was Jade. Instead, it was from a blocked number. He answered cautiously. A woman's voice, shaky. "Xavier, it's Megan." His heart slammed against his ribs. He forced a neutral tone. "Megan, where are you calling from?" She hesitated. "Burner phone Eugene doesn't know about. Look, I need you to stay away a bit longer for your own sake. These men, they've done something." Xavier realized she had no idea he was already in town, or that he'd defused the bomb. He played along. "What did they do?" Her voice hitched. "They rigged some device near the hallway. Eugene said the moment you step inside, you'll be gone. I tried to stop him, but he threatened Jade. And Stephanie," she broke off in a sob. "I hate this. But if you come home now, you'll die." Xavier's pulse hammered. He forced calm. "Megan, I'm safe. Don't worry about me. What about Jade?" She's okay, physically. Eugene's men watch her every move. I'm trying to keep them from hurting her." Xavier swallowed hard. "Why didn't you call me sooner? Or try to warn me before it got this far?" A silence broken by her ragged breathing. "He said if I contacted you, he'd cut off the money for Stephanie's treatments. She's in stage 4. She needs it. And Jade, he threatened to, I'm sorry." He wanted to lash out, to call her selfish, but the heartbreak in her voice pulled at him. "Okay," he managed. "Just keep Jade safe. I'm working on a solution. Don't let them suspect anything. Act like I'm still overseas." Megan's relief was audible. "You have a plan?" "Yeah," he lied, not wanting to share details. "I'll be in touch." She whispered, "Xavier, I never wanted to betray you." Then the line went dead. He stared at his phone, emotions raging. Megan was both victim and culprit, it seemed. That evening, Xavier met Franklin at the diner again. Cole came along, a lanky, middle-aged man with sharp eyes. They took a booth in the corner, ordering coffees they barely touched. Cole listened to the summary of events with a grim expression. When they finished, Cole said, "All right, so Eugene's threatened Megan with her sister's life, using Jade as leverage. He's also got a local network that possibly includes crooked cops. We can't bring official charges unless we have airtight proof, or they'll bury it." Xavier nodded, leaning forward. "Exactly. If we tip our hand too soon, they'll run or go underground and Jade might suffer." Cole scratched at his stubble. "I can set up a parallel investigation, off the books. We gather phone records, text messages, hidden camera footage. Once we have enough, we go public. We skip the corrupt local PD and go to the feds or certain trusted folks in the DA's office." Franklin cleared his throat. "We also suspect Eugene's dealing drugs heavily, possibly laundering money through real estate. If we connect him to city council or a senator, that's big." Cole's eyebrows rose. "A senator? This might blow up in ways you can't imagine." Xavier clenched his jaw. Good. Let them all crash and burn if they're involved. They hashed out specifics. Cole would handle phone data analysis. Franklin would plant covert cameras around the perimeter of the house. Jade might help place an audio bug inside Eugene's car or near his deals. Meanwhile, Xavier would monitor Megan's movements to see if she was truly trapped or partially complicit. Xavier also told them about the second call from Megan that afternoon. Cole listened with an impassive face. People do crazy things when loved ones are sick. She might have thought she was saving her sister. Xavier tightened his fists under the table. But she put Jade at risk. No excuse for that. A beat of silence followed. Then Cole said, "We'll proceed with caution. If Megan is too unstable or might tip Eugene off, we don't let her in on the plan." Xavier exhaled. Agreed. When they finished their coffees, Cole nodded. "Let me pull some strings. See if I can track bank transfers. If Eugene's funneling large sums, we might catch him laundering. That alone is a big felony." Franklin added, "I've got motion-activated mini-cameras disguised as yard lights or fake rocks. We'll slip them in tomorrow night. Then we wait for Eugene to do something incriminating." Xavier said quietly, "He's already done plenty. But yeah, let's catch him in the act so we can bury him for good." Cole stood to leave. "One more thing. If this goes south, if Eugene panics, he might hurt Jade or Megan. We have to be ready to move in fast." Xavier stared at him, eyes cold. "I'll be ready. Trust me." Around midnight, Xavier and Franklin returned to the neighborhood. This time, they kept to the shadows across the street. They spotted Jade's silhouette passing by a window, clearing plates from a table as two men laughed boorishly. Franklin cursed under his breath. "They're using her like a servant." Xavier said nothing, but anger twisted his stomach. He spotted Megan, too, stepping into the living room. She looked thin, her hair messy, wearing a sweater that hung off her shoulders. She said something to one of the men, who barked a laugh and patted the couch next to him, as if commanding her to sit. She looked terrified. In that moment, any lingering confusion Xavier had about her loyalty flickered. She was not in control. She was cornered, manipulated, forced to comply. He watched her lower herself onto the couch, face pale. The man threw an arm around her shoulders with possessive arrogance. Franklin murmured, "Christ, that's messed up." Xavier's jaw clenched so tightly he felt a crack. He forced himself to remain still. Rushing in now, guns blazing, might get Jade or Megan shot. So he swallowed the rage, letting it churn inside, fueling his determination to ruin Eugene thoroughly. They crept around the side yard, planting the disguised cameras in strategic spots. Then Franklin set up a directional mic aimed at the living room window, hidden in a bush. Once done, they retreated. In the safety of the parked car, they tested the video feed on a laptop. Sure enough, a grainy but serviceable image showed the living room. Jade quietly picking up empty beer cans, Megan perched uncomfortably on the couch, two men playing a card game. Franklin typed a few commands, hooking the feed to an encrypted server so they could record everything. "We'll watch from a distance," he said. "See if Eugene shows up tomorrow or the next day. Catch him bragging about something illegal." Xavier nodded, silent. On screen, one of the men grabbed Megan's wrist. She flinched, but Jade stepped forward, saying something that made him let go. The look Jade gave her mother was heartbreakingly protective. Xavier had to turn away from the laptop. If he kept watching, he might lose control. By 3 a.m., they were back at the storage unit, where Cole was waiting, cross-checking more phone records. He looked up. "Success?" Franklin nodded. "Cameras are live. We can monitor in real time." Cole rubbed his temples. "Great. Meanwhile, I found that Megan withdrew another $5,000 yesterday from your account, Xavier, marked as a medical expense. But half went to a shady shell company, possibly Eugene's front." Xavier let out a bitter laugh. "He's bleeding us dry while using Jade as leverage." Cole frowned. "We'll gather more. Try to get statements from any local folks who've seen Eugene's men around. Build a case. Once we have enough, we'll move. And we'll rescue Jade at the same time." Xavier nodded, swallowing the urge to ask how soon. He knew they had to do it right. He also knew he'd never forgive himself if Jade got hurt. The clock was ticking. Over the next day, Xavier monitored the camera feed from a nondescript sedan parked a few blocks away. Franklin took shifts with him. The men inside the house came and went, sometimes leaving Jade alone for short periods, though the doors were locked from the outside. Megan had limited freedom to go to the grocery store or pharmacy, always escorted by at least one thug. In one recorded exchange, Megan broke down crying in the kitchen, telling Jade she was sorry. Jade responded curtly, "I told you, Mom, we should have never trusted Eugene. Now we're stuck." The camera angle only caught part of Jade's face, but it showed her frustration, the tears brimming in her eyes. Xavier felt both pity and anger. He wanted to storm in, cradle Jade, tell her it wasn't her fault. But he forced himself to wait. That afternoon, Jade texted the burner phone Franklin had given her. "Eugene is coming tomorrow for a business meeting. He's bringing some city official, maybe a senator. They're talking about real estate deals, possibly money laundering." Xavier read the text out loud to Franklin. "If we can record that conversation, we have a huge leverage, enough to bury Eugene in felony charges." Franklin grinned. That might be the smoking gun, or at least one of them. Xavier typed back, "Any chance you can bug Eugene's car too?" Jade replied a few minutes later, "I'll try." Around nightfall, Megan stepped outside alone for a brief moment, probably to discard trash. Xavier seized the chance. He emerged from his sedan, staying in the shadows. She was about to head back inside when he hissed, "Megan!" She gasped, nearly dropping the trash bag. "Xavier? Oh, God!" He yanked her into the darkness behind some shrubs. She looked both relieved and terrified. "You're here? They said your flight was delayed." He spoke in a low, urgent voice. "I've been here for days. I disarmed that bomb, by the way. Jade is safe from that, at least." Tears welled in her eyes. "Thank you. Eugene threatened me. I had no choice." Xavier's eyes hardened. "You always had a choice to call me. You could have told me the truth earlier." She swallowed. "I was scared. You don't know how ruthless Eugene can be. And Stephanie, she's so sick. The hospital bills." She broke off, crying quietly. "I'm so sorry." For a moment, he almost softened. Then the image of Jade picking up beer cans like a servant sharpened his anger. "I'm not here to argue. I just want Jade out. Let them think the bomb is still armed. If Eugene asks, you pretend you haven't seen me." Megan nodded frantically. I can do that." He lowered his voice further. "When Eugene comes tomorrow, we'll record everything. Don't interfere, just act normal. Then we'll strike." She gulped. "What if he finds out you're around?" "Then we adapt," he said coldly. "But I'll do whatever it takes to protect Jade." A beat passed as Megan's tears trickled down her cheeks. "I understand." He motioned for her to go back inside. She hesitated, then whispered, "Please don't hate me." His jaw clenched. "Go," was all he said. She slipped away, back into the house. That night, the sky threatened rain. Xavier and Franklin huddled in the sedan, laptops open. They watched Megan's silhouette pace anxiously in the living room. Jade disappeared upstairs for an hour, presumably to sleep. The two thugs on camera drank themselves half to oblivion. Franklin side-eyed Xavier. "You okay?" Xavier tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. "I will be after we bring these bastards down." No further conversation was needed. Morning arrived in a drizzle. By mid-morning, Franklin's phone vibrated. Jade had somehow managed to slip an old smartphone, rigged to record audio, into Eugene's trunk. She texted, "It's in place." They tested the feed. Sure enough, they heard faint road noise, muffled rap music Eugene was driving around. Then Eugene's voice talking on a speakerphone, something about property acquisition, the senator's cut, a hush fund. Franklin's eyes widened. Gold. We get this all recorded. Xavier forced a thin smile. The net was tightening. By noon, Eugene pulled up to the house, accompanied by a well-dressed older man who Franklin recognized from local news, a state senator rumored to have shady dealings. They walked inside, greeted by Megan and Jade, who served them coffee. Xavier from the sedan watched the camera feed. He could see Eugene swaggering around, bragging about controlling local drug routes, city officials, real estate. The senator sipped coffee, reminding him to keep it discreet. They caught the conversation. Eugene said, "Don't worry about that pilot. We rigged his place to blow. If he's dumb enough to come back, he's toast." Xavier felt a jolt of anger. He also realized this was exactly the kind of self-incriminating statement they needed. The senator nodded, swirling his coffee. "As long as the funds keep rolling in, you can do whatever you want. But if you screw up and the media gets a hold of this, I can't protect you." Eugene smirked. "I have Megan under my thumb, her sister's life in my hands. She won't say a word. And the kid? She's too scared." Xavier breathed through his nose, focusing on controlling his fury. For over an hour, the men discussed expansions of Eugene's drug distribution, real estate flips to launder money, and payoffs to cops. Meanwhile, Jade hovered in the background, quietly refilling coffee cups, stealing glances at the corner camera. At one point, Megan tried to excuse herself to the kitchen, but Eugene tugged her arm, making her sit next to him. The senator gave a disapproving look but said nothing. Finally, the men left. The camera in the yard caught them walking to the driveway, exchanging handshakes. The senator got into his black sedan and drove off. Eugene stood there a moment, rummaging in his trunk, complaining about some item, all the while giving the hidden phone additional tidbits of conversation. Then he too drove away. Xavier let out a shaky breath, glancing at the laptop. "We got it," he said to Franklin, his voice tight. "We have enough to blow their operation wide open." Franklin nodded. "We should share this with Cole. Then we coordinate a final strike on Eugene's safe houses, because if we just release the tape, he'll run, and maybe take Jade with him." Xavier's mind raced. "We need to hit them all at once, Eugene, the senator, any dirty cops, everything, so they can't warn each other." Franklin's eyes gleamed. A multi-target takedown. They phoned Cole, who listened to a snippet of the recordings in stunned silence. "That's a big fish, actually multiple big fish. This could bring down half the city's corrupt officials." Cole said he'd get media contacts ready, so if anything happened to them, the recordings would automatically be leaked. They'd set a timed release, a dead man's switch. Xavier's sense of vengeance flared. We do it soon. Jade's living in a war zone every day." Cole told them, "Give me 48 hours. I'll set up the infrastructure, gather a few ex-cops I trust. We'll need to secure multiple sites simultaneously." Xavier hesitated. That meant 2 more days Jade had to endure. But if they went in half-cocked, they could lose everything. He forced himself to agree. "Fine, but the moment we're a go, we do not hesitate." That evening, Megan slipped outside for another trash run, briefly speaking to Xavier again. He told her, 48 hours, we take Eugene down. Act normal until then." She nodded, eyes filled with a mixture of hope and dread. "Please be careful. Eugene's got heavily armed men, some real psychos. And thank you for saving Jade." He didn't respond to her gratitude. Instead, he said in a steely tone, "When this is over, we'll talk about your role in all this." Megan blinked, tears glistening, but she said nothing. She hurried back inside, shutting the door behind her. Xavier watched her vanish. Then he walked back to the sedan, determination etched on his face. He was done playing nice. In 2 days, he would unleash hell. Rain was imminent, and the sky above Xavier's rental car was the color of dull pewter. As he stared at the suburban street, he felt the shift in the atmosphere, not just the literal humidity pressing against the windshield, but the weight of so many hidden tensions closing in. It was T-minus 48 hours until the planned takedown. He could practically taste the anticipation in the air, laced with anxiety over Jade's continued safety. "I can't keep waiting here," he muttered, glancing at Franklin in the passenger seat. "Feels like I'm letting her suffer one more day." Franklin set his phone down. He'd been quietly scanning through additional evidence logs that Cole was updating in real time. "I know, man, but we have to have all our pieces in place. The second we move, we gotta hit them from every angle. Cole's tying up a few final thread safe house addresses, the extra men Eugene employs, any cops on his payroll so we don't get blindsided." A large droplet of rain tapped the windshield. 1, 2, 3, then a downpour. Xavier turned the wipers on low. "I get that," he said quietly. "Still want to break down that door right now. Just watching Jade being forced to..." He stopped himself, memory fresh with images of Jade picking up beer cans, forced to swallow the disdain on her face. Franklin's eyes softened. Believe me, I'd be right behind you, but we both know Eugene's not even on site half the time. He's out there, making deals. You bust down that door now, you catch a handful of drunks, but the main puppet master escapes. Then Jade and Megan spend the rest of their lives looking over their shoulders for his retaliation. You want to end this for good? We do it the way we planned. Xavier tapped the steering wheel, every muscle in his body taut. He recognized the truth in Franklin's words. He'd learned in the military that patience was sometimes the key to a swift, decisive victory. Still, personal stakes made patience a bitter pill to swallow. His phone buzzed. Jade's latest text. Mom got me alone for a minute. She said Eugene's visiting tomorrow again, noonish. He's bringing guys to discuss distribution. They keep pressuring me, Dad. I'm okay, but hurry. He read it out loud, then pressed his lips together. We do the final strike tomorrow night or the following morning at the absolute latest, once Cole's men and the out-of-town help are in position. Jade's stress can't go on any longer than that. Franklin gave a nod of agreement. Yeah, let's stick to that. Outside, the rain hammered the pavement with increasing ferocity, as though nature itself was reflecting Xavier's seething turmoil. Hours crawled by in the car. They had taken shifts monitoring the hidden camera feed on a small laptop, occasionally stepping out for coffee runs or to stretch their legs. Franklin dozed off around midnight, leaving Xavier alone with his thoughts. Each time Xavier glimpsed the video feed, he saw a partial view of the living room. Jade paced anxiously, occasionally heading upstairs. Megan hovered by the kitchen door or slumped in a corner of the couch. The men, 2 or 3 at a time, sat around playing cards, guzzling cheap beer. They flipped channels on the TV, sometimes making crude jokes about the pilot, who was about to get a nasty surprise. Little did they know the bomb was defused. Xavier felt an almost savage satisfaction in the knowledge that Eugene's grand trap was nothing but a dud now. More than once, he clenched his fists, imagining the look on Eugene's face when he realized it. The day's tension mingled with the claustrophobia of the car's interior. At around 1 in the morning, Xavier stepped out, letting the cool drizzle wash over him. He stood on the sidewalk under a sad, flickering street lamp. The entire neighborhood was quiet, curtains drawn, families presumably asleep. The normalcy grated at him, a reminder that while other folks had mundane problems, he was waging war in his own home. He lit a cigarette, a habit he'd mostly kicked but occasionally relapsed into under stress. He took a drag, letting the smoke warm his throat. Memories churned. Megan's eyes the night she told him they were pregnant with Jade, her laughter during that first ultrasound, her tears when Stephanie's illness was diagnosed. For years, Megan had carried the burden of her sister's failing health. Maybe that was the crack Eugene found and exploited. Yet each memory ended with Jade's frightened eyes or the men in his living room. He flicked the cigarette away in a burst of frustration. When he returned to the car, Franklin stirred awake. "Time okay?" he murmured, blinking at the clock. "Yeah," Xavier said softly. "No changes on the feed." Franklin stretched, glancing at the live stream. Megan was apparently asleep in a corner chair, Jade nowhere in sight, possibly upstairs. One man shuffled around, half-lidded eyes from too much drink. Nothing threatened immediate crisis, but the tension never left. "How about you catch a few winks?" Franklin offered. "I'll keep watch." Xavier nodded reluctantly. Sleep never came easily, but he forced himself to at least close his eyes, replaying the plan they'd finalize tomorrow. Morning arrived with gray skies and the hum of neighborhood traffic picking up. People walking dogs heading to work. A typical suburban day, except for the covert operation happening in a nondescript sedan. They grabbed a quick breakfast from a drive-thru. While Franklin drove, Xavier sipped coffee, scanning new messages from Cole. The short gist: we've got enough for an arrest warrant if we had an honest judge, but we suspect the local system is too compromised. I'm hooking in some federal contacts, but that takes time. Plan remains. Strike first, gather them all, then deliver evidence to the media so it can't be swept under the rug. Xavier typed back, "We do it at midnight after Eugene's business day." That way, most key players might be at the safe house or city hall office finalizing details. We can coordinate from multiple angles. Cole's response. Agreed. My guys will be ready. Franklin's phone chimed with a text from Jade. Eugene just arrived. Big discussion happening in the living room. Xavier inhaled deeply. Showtime. We record every second. They pulled into a discreet spot, booted up the live feed. There was Eugene back in Xavier's living room next to Megan. Jade stood behind the couch. Another official-looking man perched on the armchair. They discussed shipments of some narcotic, which neighborhoods they'd flood, how to handle any random turf conflicts. At one point, Eugene bragged about having the cops in his pocket. The official smirked, replying, Long as they keep that hush money, we're golden. Xavier's nails dug into his palm. Perfect ammunition. The more Eugene incriminated himself, the more unstoppable the final takedown would be. After about an hour, the meeting broke up. Eugene patted Megan's shoulder, almost like a twisted fatherly gesture. She flinched. Jade hovered near the hallway, arms crossed protectively over her chest. Then, unexpectedly, Eugene strode to the front door. He paused, glancing at the floor as though double-checking the bomb site. A sneer curled his lip. If that bastard pilot actually shows up unannounced, he's in for a nasty surprise. Behind the video feed, Xavier and Franklin exchanged a dark look. It took all of Xavier's willpower not to burst through the door right then. They watched as Eugene turned to Megan, voice a low command. Come on, we gotta go check the warehouse. You're coming too. Might need your signature on some bank docs or something. Megan, pale as a sheet, nodded. Jade started to follow, but Eugene shook his head. Kid stays. She can help the boys tidy up for tomorrow's event. Jade's expression flickered with relief. She probably didn't want to get stuffed into a car with Eugene. In the sedan, Franklin typed quick notes. Warehouse. That's probably where they store their supplies. Xavier's mind whirled with possibilities. If Eugene was leaving the house for a while, Jade might have more freedom, or the men left behind might be fewer. Did that present an immediate chance to extract Jade? But no two men were still inside, and any alarm raised would ruin the bigger plan. Damn it, Xavier muttered. We stay put. Wait for midnight. We'll get them all in one sweep. Franklin nodded, though he understood the frustration in Xavier's voice. Around midday, Jade texted, We're okay. 2 men here. They're bored, rummaging the fridge. Mom's with Eugene. No idea when they'll come back. Xavier replied with a short reassurance. Hang tight. Less than 24 hours to go. We have a plan. He suspected Jade needed that reminder that the end was near. She sent back a simple, Thank you. I trust you, Dad. That text weighed heavily on him. He refused to let her down. Through the afternoon, Xavier and Franklin took short shifts. One dozed in the sedan while the other watched the feed. They snacked on cold sandwiches and watery coffee. The weather remained gray, but the rain had stopped. They glimpsed Jade occasionally sweeping the floor or collecting trash. She always looked around as if checking for hidden watchers. The men in the living room dozed off, half-lidded from a midday lull. We could slip her out now, Franklin muttered once, half-joking. They're not even paying attention. Xavier gave a lopsided grin. Yeah, and the second she's gone, Eugene's men freak out and go underground. Then we lose our chance to nail him for good. We can't risk it. Franklin nodded, but a residue of tension hung in the air. They both hated feeling so close yet so constrained. As dusk approached, Cole arrived in a plain white van parking a block away. He hopped into the back seat of the sedan with a few files and a laptop. All right, Cole said, smoothing down his wrinkled shirt. We have 4 main targets to hit simultaneously. The house, where some men are stationed, the main warehouse Eugene uses for drug stock and hush money exchanges, a smaller safe house near the industrial park, rumored to store weapons, and a city hall office where certain files are kept locked to protect Eugene's crooked deals. My team can handle the city hall infiltration and the safe house. We've got at least 2 ex-cops who know how to do a swift takedown. We'll gather all physical docs. Meanwhile, you guys coordinate on the warehouse and the house. If we do this right, Eugene, his men, and maybe even some of the corrupt officials get caught in the act. Xavier listened carefully, arms folded. Eugene's likely to split his men between these spots. Jade and Megan are at the house, so that's my priority. But if Eugene is at the warehouse, I might also need a team to handle him. Cole tapped the laptop. We have to time it so that we strike the house first. Once Jade is safe, we pivot to the warehouse with backup to corner Eugene, or vice versa, depending on where Eugene physically is at midnight. If he's not there, we can't let him slip away. Franklin shifted. We'll stay flexible. We'll have a unit near the warehouse on standby. The moment we confirm Eugene's location, they swoop in. Simultaneously, we storm the house, rescue Jade and Megan, subdue whoever's inside. Cole scratched his chin. Yes, and we'll record everything. We'll get a media contact on a live feed if we must, so no one can hush it up. Xavier gave a grim, approving nod. Let's do it. They hammered out final details for an hour, discussing best-case and worst-case scenarios. The tension in the car thickened. Tomorrow's midnight felt both too far away and dangerously close. Nightfall brought a fresh wave of anxiety. Jade texted, "Mom's back. She looks bad. Eugene's pissed about something. They're yelling in the kitchen." Xavier's stomach twisted. He typed back, "Stay calm. Keep your head down." The living room feed showed Megan stumbling in, tears streaking her face. She had a red mark on her wrist, like someone grabbed her too hard. Eugene wasn't on camera, but they heard his voice off-screen, growling about that pilot and the money's not enough. He slammed something, maybe a cabinet door. Then Megan fled upstairs, presumably to hide or collect herself. Franklin muttered a curse. "He's getting violent. We can't let this go on." Xavier's knuckles whitened around the seat. "I know," he said hoarsely. "Tomorrow can't come soon enough." They kept watch as Jade eventually slipped downstairs, presumably to check on her mother. One of Eugene's men followed, smirking. The camera angle lost them in the hallway. Xavier's pulse thundered, but minutes later Jade reappeared alone, heading back to the living room. She typed a quick text. "Mom locked herself in the bathroom. I think she's just crying. The guy left her alone for now." Xavier exhaled. At least they're not hurting her physically yet. Franklin drummed his fingers on the laptop. "Tomorrow," he repeated, more to reassure himself than anything. "Tomorrow we end this." Midnight arrived. 24 hours remained until the planned multi-point assault. The house feed showed the men eventually crashing on the couch or floor. Jade turned off the TV, presumably hoping for some quiet. Megan never reappeared on camera. Xavier rested his head against the seat, mind churning. He pictured how the operation would unfold. Cole's men hitting City Hall offices, snagging incriminating documents. Another squad at the safe house, catching any weapons or smaller players. Franklin's team with him, storming the house to free Jade and Megan, zip-tying the guards, then pivoting to the warehouse, capturing Eugene. He closed his eyes, thinking about every lethal possibility. Gunfire erupting if these men resisted. Collateral damage if local cops tried to intervene on Eugene's side. Jade caught in the crossfire. "I'll handle it," he whispered to no one in particular. "I've been in riskier missions overseas. This is my family. I won't fail." Franklin overheard, nodded in the darkness. "Exactly," was all he said. An hour later, Jade texted a final goodnight. "I'll keep my phone hidden. Let me know if I should do anything special." Xavier responded, "Stay safe. Keep an ear out for tomorrow's plan. We'll strike around midnight." She replied with a simple heart emoji. Xavier's chest tightened, an emotional pang that reminded him that behind all the strategic planning, this was his daughter's life on the line. As the quiet suburban night wore on, they tried to sleep in shifts again. Tomorrow was the big day. The final countdown had begun. The next morning, ironically, the sun broke through for the first time in days. Clear skies, bright light. For a fleeting moment, the neighborhood looked downright idyllic. Children rode bikes down the sidewalk. A mailman did his route. But behind that facade, a storm of consequences brewed. Xavier and Franklin stepped out of the sedan to stretch, discussing final gear checks, bulletproof vests, non-lethal options like tasers or pepper spray, just in case they wanted to avoid unnecessary bloodshed, plus body cams to record the raid. By mid-morning, Cole arrived again, this time with 2 ex-cops in a separate car. They parked discreetly. The group convened near some overgrown hedges behind an abandoned property. Cole introduced the 2 ex-cops, Martinez and Devlin, both stern-faced men in their 40s. We're going to the safe house in the industrial area, Martinez explained. Devlin's got a small squad. We'll secure the stash of weapons if it's there and arrest any criminals we find. That happens at midnight, same time you hit the house. Franklin nodded. We'll have a second group at City Hall, right? Cole confirmed. Yes. My contact will unlock the office surreptitiously. We go in, gather the hidden files, lock it back up. We'll do it quietly, but if we meet resistance, we have enough men to handle it. Xavier scanned their faces, feeling a flicker of hope. They had assembled a small but determined team of people not mired in corruption. This was more allies than he'd expected to gather in such short time. Devlin said, "What about Eugene's warehouse? That's the big question. He might be there, or he might be at the house. We need to be sure we can respond either way." Xavier took a measured breath. "We'll have Franklin and me plus a few guys outside the house. If Eugene is there, we nab him. If he's not, we finish up quickly, free Jade and Megan, then race to the warehouse. Meanwhile, another small squad can already be waiting near the warehouse in case Eugene shows up early." Cole agreed. "That's the best approach. We'll have real-time comms, so we can coordinate instantly." They spent another hour finalizing roles and exchanging frequency channels for their walkie-talkies. By the end, a sense of unity formed a ragtag but resolute task force ready to bring Eugene's operation crashing down. Afternoon gave way to evening in a swirl of preparations. Xavier retreated to the motel to shower, change into tactical gear. He stared at himself in the mirror, the reflection of a man who'd survived war overseas, now fighting a personal war at home. The lines on his face looked deeper, the set of his jaw more severe, but beneath that weariness lay a fierce determination. He texted Jade, "Stay strong. By this time tomorrow, it'll be over." She replied, "I'm ready. Good luck, Dad." Megan was radio silent, presumably because Eugene or his men hovered too close. But Jade had confirmed earlier that Megan was physically okay, if deeply anxious. Xavier double-checked his weapon, the same sidearm he'd smuggled from his deployment. He loaded a few magazines, ensuring he had lethal and non-lethal rounds. The objective was to capture, not necessarily to kill, but he wouldn't hesitate if they aimed guns at Jade or anyone else. Xavier nodded. "As I'll ever be." They drove to the staging area, a large vacant lot about a mile from the house. The others arrived in unmarked vehicles. The plan was to wait until midnight. Then the squads would peel off to their designated targets. A hush fell over them, the calm before the storm. Cole walked up, handing Xavier a small earpiece. "We're all connected. The moment we move, we move." Xavier took it, hooking it over his ear, adjusting the mic near his collar. "Copy that." In the distance, city lights shimmered, oblivious to the drama about to unfold. Midnight arrived in a breathless hush. Clouds drifted across a faint moon, painting the suburban streets in patches of shadow. The hush in the staging lot was broken only by the sound of rustling gear, quiet footsteps as each small squad loaded into their vehicles. Tension hummed like a live wire. Xavier stood by the driver's door of an unmarked SUV, scanning the faces around him. Franklin, Cole, a half-dozen other men ready to roll. Jade was about a mile away in that cursed house, waiting. Megan, too, though her role was murky, overshadowed by confusion and fear. He felt Franklin's hand on his shoulder. "We do this by the book, or as close to it as we can, right?" Xavier offered a grim nod. "Yes, we want them alive, but I'm not risking Jade if they open fire." Cole keyed the radio. "All teams get set. City Hall team go. Safe House team go. Warehouse watchers stand by for Eugene's arrival." Crackling replies came. "Copy." Xavier slid into the driver's seat, Franklin riding shotgun. Two more men, Travis and Bowers, hopped in the back. The plan, Xavier's SUV would lead the approach to the house. Two other vehicles with ex-cops would flank them, forming a perimeter to ensure no one escaped. The engine rumbled softly as they pulled out, creeping along side streets toward what used to be Xavier's safe haven. In the earpiece, they heard updates. Cole's voice from City Hall. "We're inside, no resistance yet. Searching for the locked files." Devlin from the safe house. "Entry secure. We've got 2 tangos subdued, found a weapons cache." Another voice. "Warehouse watchers here. No sign of Eugene yet. We remain hidden. It was all falling into place. The next piece was the house. Xavier turned onto his street, lights off, rolling quietly. He parked half a block away behind some hedges. The second and third vehicles stationed themselves at either end of the block, blocking escape routes. He clicked his mic. Team house in position. Cameras show how many inside, Frank? Franklin peered at a tablet connected to the hidden cameras. Looks like 3 men. Jade is upstairs, presumably in her room. Megan's with her, or maybe in the hallway. Hard to see. Xavier stilled his breathing. We go in fast, subdue them, get Jade and Megan out. If Eugene shows up mid-raid, we handle him. If not, we wrap this up and head to the warehouse. Travis in the back seat gave a terse, "Yes, sir," and Bowers cocked his sidearm. They exited the SUV, moving in a tight formation across front lawns. Streetlights glowed faintly, but they stuck to the shadows, firearms ready. At the front porch, Xavier placed a gloved hand on the doorknob, locked. They had a quick-release crowbar. While Franklin prepared to pry it open, Travis and Bowers took positions behind Xavier, scanning for any watchers. A dog barked somewhere down the street, but no one emerged. In a swift motion, Franklin popped the lock. The door creaked open. Dim light from inside spilled across them. Xavier was the first in, gun up, scanning the living room. 2 men were on the couch, startled. A third was rummaging the fridge in the kitchen. "Hands up! Down on the floor!" Xavier barked, voice cold and commanding. The men froze, eyes wide. One fumbled for a gun at his waistband before Travis tackled him. Bowers advanced on the second man, who raised his hands. In the kitchen, the fridge guy dropped his half-eaten sandwich and reached for a pistol. Franklin fired a stun round that caught the man in the shoulder. He yelped, collapsing to one knee. Xavier pivoted around, clearing the hallway. "Jade! Megan!" he shouted, heart pounding. "It's me, Xavier!" A scuffling sound upstairs. Jade's voice. "Dad!" He motioned for Franklin to keep watch on the subdued men while Travis and Bowers zip-tied them. Then Xavier raced up the stairs. At the top step, he nearly collided with Jade, who flung herself into his arms. "Dad!" He inhaled sharply, hugging her tight. "You okay?" She nodded tearfully. "Yeah, just so scared. Mom's in the bedroom." He released Jade, stepping into the hallway. Megan stood in the bedroom doorway, eyes wide. "Xavier?" "Yes," he said shortly, scanning for threats. "Any of Eugene's men up here?" Megan shook her head, trembling. "No, just us." Xavier pushed into the master bedroom empty, no sign of hidden gunmen. He let out a low breath. "We're securing the house. You 2 go downstairs. My men will guide you outside." Megan swallowed. "Is it over?" His eyes flashed. "Not yet. Eugene's not here. We have to finish this." Jade clutched her mother's arm. "Dad, can we go now?" He ushered them forward. "Yes, Franklin will take you to safety. We have more to do." They descended. Franklin in the living room had the 3 subdued men on the floor, wrists zip-tied. Bowers pointed a gun at them, reading them their rights. Travis rummaged for contraband. One man spat, "What the hell is this, the pilot?" He glared at Xavier. Xavier ignored him, addressing Jade and Megan. "Go with Franklin. Wait in the SUV. You'll be safe there." Megan's face was pale and Jade was trembling. They both complied without question, stepping gingerly over the subdued criminals. Franklin escorted them out the front door, giving Xavier a confirming nod. Once Jade and Megan were out of harm's immediate path, Xavier's rage simmered. He glared at the men on the floor. "Eugene," he demanded, "where is he?" One smirked defiantly. "We're not telling you shit." Bowers nudged him with a boot. "Better talk, buddy." "We're coordinating with the feds," Travis chimed in, rummaging pockets. "So you'd rather keep loyalty to a scumbag who's going down anyway?" None of them answered. Xavier clenched his teeth. "Fine. We'll find him ourselves." He clicked his mic. "House is secure. Jade and Megan extracted. Cole, how's City Hall?" Cole's voice crackled back. "We got the documents. Some big names here. Dirty judges, city officials. It's ugly. We're pulling out now. Over." Next, Devlin from the safe house. "All clear. We found a stash of guns, about 4 men in custody. They're whining for lawyers." Finally, the warehouse watchers. "No sign of Eugene yet. We're standing by. We got a small team here, but if he arrives with muscle, we'll need backup." Xavier exhaled, pacing the living room. All right. We move to the warehouse next. He motioned to Travis and Bowers. Secure these three, phone local authorities we trust. We have partial intel on which cops might be clean. They'll come get them. Travis nodded. What about you? I'm heading to the warehouse with Franklin. We'll see if we can intercept Eugene. That's the big fish. Outside, Xavier found Jade and Megan in the back seat of the SUV. Jade's eyes shone with relief. Dad, she said again, hugging him fiercely. He stroked her hair. You did great, Jade. It's almost over. Megan watched with trembling hands. Xavier, I'm so sorry. He studied her face. She seemed on the verge of collapse, dark circles under her eyes, the bruise on her wrist from earlier. He tempered his anger with the knowledge that she'd endured Eugene's threats. We'll talk later, he said stiffly, but not unkindly. He turned to Franklin. Take them to the motel or a safe location. We still have the warehouse to handle. Franklin paused. You sure you don't want me with you? Xavier nodded. I'll link up with Cole's guys. You protect Jade. That's an order. Franklin accepted, though he clearly would have preferred to be at Xavier's side. Copy that. Be careful. With that, Xavier handed Jade a phone. Keep in touch. I'll let you know when it's safe to come home, though we probably won't be living here anymore. This place, it's compromised. Jade squeezed his arm. Just come back safe, Dad. He offered a tight smile. I will. Then he spun on his heel, rejoining Travis and Bowers near the porch. Let's go, he commanded. They loaded into a different, unmarked sedan, one of the extra vehicles. Xavier behind the wheel, Travis and Bowers in the seats behind, with guns at the ready. Off they sped, leaving Franklin's SUV to deliver Jade and Megan to safety. The drive to the warehouse district took about 15 minutes. The radio crackled with partial updates. Devlin was done at the safe house, heading to City Hall to help Cole extract. Meanwhile, the watchers outside the warehouse reported sporadic movement of low-level runners, but no Eugene yet. Xavier rumbled through the deserted streets, passing shuttered factories and looming storage units. Sodium vapor streetlights cast a sickly orange glow. Finally, they approached the coordinates. One of Cole's men, stationed in a parked van, waved them down. Xavier pulled up behind. The man introduced himself as Hal. Hal explained, So we've got about 4 or 5 men inside. They come and go. Eugene's black SUV isn't here yet. If he's going to show, he'll be in that, or so we figure. Xavier checked his phone. 2 a.m. He might arrive late. Let's not tip them off. We'll wait. He radioed to Cole. City Hall is done, right? You heading our way? Cole's breathless voice. Affirmative. We're about 10 minutes out. You can start if you see an opening. We'll back you up. Roger, Xavier said. Under cover of darkness, Xavier, Travis, Bowers, and Hal's small group took positions around the perimeter of the warehouse. They used crates and abandoned trucks for concealment. A single overhead light on the warehouse's loading dock flickered. From the vantage point, they glimpsed 2 men outside, lazily smoking. Another seemed to be inside, glimpsed through a glass window near the door. Time crawled. Every minute felt like an hour. The question loomed. Would Eugene show, or was he out of town? Then, near 2:30 a.m. headlights cut through the gloom. A black SUV rumbled up. The 2 men outside straightened, flicking away cigarettes. Xavier's pulse hammered. He peered through binoculars. Sure enough, Eugene stepped out, scanning the area. He wore a leather jacket, posture tense. Another man hopped out on the passenger side, an intimidating figure with a shaved head. Eugene barked something at the men by the door. They scrambled to open the warehouse gate. Xavier keyed his mic softly. Eugene in sight. We confirm ID. We move in on my signal. Travis and Bowers crouched beside him, weapons ready. Hal and his partner flanked the other side. Eugene entered the warehouse. The door shut behind him. The shaved-head passenger stayed outside for a moment, glancing around suspiciously. Xavier held his breath, staying hidden behind a stack of pallets. Finally, the shaved-head man followed Eugene inside. The door closed. Xavier whispered into the mic, We strike now. Cole, are you in position? Cole's voice crackled back. 2 blocks away. We'll be there in 60 seconds. Xavier nodded to Travis and Bowers. We can't wait. He might finalize deals or leave quickly. Let's go. They advanced on the side entrance. Hal's partner circled to the loading dock. Another man took the front door. On Xavier's signal, they kicked the side door. The metal screeched open. Inside, a large, dimly lit space stretched out, crates stacked along the walls. The stench of chemicals and dust filled the air. 4 men turned at once, surprise etched on their faces. Eugene stood near a folding table, rifling through some documents. The shaved-head bodyguard immediately drew his weapon. "Freeze! Hands up!" Xavier roared, pressing forward. The bodyguard fired a wild shot. Bullets pinged off a metal crate, sending echoes through the warehouse. Xavier dropped behind a crate, returning fire with 2 measured shots. One clipped the bodyguard's shoulder, spinning him around with a grunt. Travis and Bowers flanked left, subduing another armed thug who tried to sprint for cover. Hal's partner tackled a smaller runner. Eugene himself dove behind the folding table, upending it as a makeshift shield. "Son of a bitch!" Xavier heard him spit. "Where's that pilot?" Xavier crouched, adrenaline surging. He barked into the mic, "Shots fired! We're engaging! Cole, hurry!" Gunfire rattled through the warehouse as one last thug tried to empty a magazine in their direction. Travis returned fire, dropping him with a shot to the leg. Eugene popped up from behind the overturned table, attempting to shoot blindly. But Xavier saw him coming, aimed and squeezed the trigger once, twice. One bullet grazed Eugene's arm, making him drop his gun with a roar of pain. "Eugene!" Xavier shouted, stepping forward, weapon trained. "Don't move!" Eugene, clutching his wounded arm, glared at Xavier with unmasked hatred. "You your damn wife!" "Shut up!" Xavier growled. "It's over! On your knees! Hands behind your head!" Eugene spat, blood trickling from a cut on his lip. "You think you've won, pilot? My connections, my officials, they'll bury you!" Xavier advanced, teeth bared. "Your officials are being taken down as we speak. Your men at the house are arrested. The safe house is ours. Your entire operation is collapsing." Eugene stared, realization dawning that his elaborate setup had failed. "Megan," he hissed. "She must have helped you, that traitorous—" Xavier smashed the butt of his gun into Eugene's side, not enough to break bones, but enough to knock the wind out of him. "Don't you dare blame her for your twisted schemes." Cole's men burst in through the front door, weapons raised. They saw Eugene on his knees, half doubled over, and the scattered, moaning criminals around the warehouse. Cole nodded sharply. "Looks like you got him." Eugene cursed, attempting to lunge forward, but Travis pinned him, wrestling his arms behind his back and zip-tying them. "All teams suspect in custody," Cole announced over comms. "Repeat, we have Eugene." Xavier stepped back, adrenaline still coursing. He locked eyes with Eugene, voice ice-cold. "You threatened my daughter, manipulated my wife, and tried to blow me up in my own home. Now you get what's coming." Eugene sneered, but the defiance in his eyes flickered with fear. "You have no idea how deep this goes. They'll never let me speak." Xavier's lips curled in a bitter smirk. "Oh, you'll speak, or you'll rot in a cell for the rest of your miserable life." The aftermath of the raid felt strangely surreal. Sirens pierced the late-night air as certain trusted factions of law enforcement arrived to process the scene, taking Eugene and his men into official custody. Under the watchful eyes of Cole's group, no shady cops were permitted to sabotage the arrests. Xavier stood near a cluster of crates, surveying the chaos. Flashing red and blue lights reflected off the puddles in the warehouse parking lot. The criminals, zip-tied and injured, were being loaded into police vans. Devlin approached, breathless. "We've got City Hall evidence loaded into secure lockers. The safe house guys gave minimal resistance. Now it's all in the open. A major scandal's about to blow." Xavier nodded, exhaustion pulling at him like a riptide. "Good. That's what we wanted. Everything out in the open so no one can bury it." Cole appeared, carrying a thick folder. "Found more documents Eugene tried to burn. Enough to incriminate 6 city officials, plus a senator. We also have phone recordings, text logs. The DA can't ignore this." Xavier's eyes briefly closed in relief. "He's done then. All of them." Cole patted his shoulder. "You did it, man. Freed your family from that monster. Now go see Jade and Megan. They're probably worried sick." A wave of longing hit Xavier. Yes, Jade was safe, but he needed to see her, hold her again, confirm with his own eyes that this was truly over. He found Franklin outside the warehouse, leaning against an unmarked police cruiser. "Your daughter's with me," Franklin said, reading Xavier's unspoken question. I had them wait in the motel initially, but once word came that Eugene was caught, Jade insisted on coming here. She's in that sedan over there with Megan. Xavier let out a shaky breath, crossing the lot. Sure enough, Jade was in the back seat of a dark sedan, rummaging through her phone. Megan was next to her, hands clasped in her lap. When Jade spotted him, she burst out of the car, running into his arms. "Dad!" He caught her, hugging her tight. For a moment, everything else faded. She was safe. She was real. "It's over," he murmured against her hair. "He's done." Megan climbed out, more hesitant. She moved closer, tears glimmering in her eyes. "Xavier, are you okay?" He released Jade, turning to Megan. A swirl of anger and pity and relief coursed through him. He noted the bruise on her wrist, the haunted look in her gaze. "I'm fine," he said, voice flat. "Eugene's in cuffs, so you're free of him." "Jade is safe." She swallowed, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "I know I messed up, but you saved us." Xavier's jaw tightened. He'd spent days raging over her betrayal, but seeing her trembling, broken by guilt, made him remember she, too, had been a victim. "We'll talk," he said quietly, trying to keep his tone neutral. "Later. Right now, let's just breathe." Megan nodded, tears dripping. Jade reached to hold her mom's hand, forging a fragile moment of connection. Franklin approached from behind. "Local cops who aren't on the take are here, collecting statements. They want a word with you, Xavier, about the warehouse operation, probably routine." Xavier sighed. "All right, Jade, go wait in the car. Megan, you too." Megan squeezed Jade's hand. The two women retreated to the sedan. Inside the warehouse, an older detective with silver hair and a weary expression introduced himself as Detective Lang. He seemed genuinely appreciative of their efforts. "We've known something big was brewing, but our hands were often tied by higher-ups. You all basically gift-wrapped this ring for us." Xavier recounted the entire saga. How Eugene blackmailed Megan over her sister's cancer bills, threatened Jade, rigged the bomb in the house, and so on. Meanwhile, the detective's partner took notes. Lang said, "We'll verify your statements with the evidence from City Hall, the safe house, and the seized documents here. Should be open and shut. The DA will have a field day." Cole hovered nearby, occasionally adding details about the corrupt senator, the property laundering schemes, and the real estate scamming that Eugene orchestrated. After nearly half an hour, the detective closed his notepad. "I appreciate your cooperation. We'll need all of you to sign official statements. Then hopefully the justice system does its job." Xavier gave a wry nod. "I hope so too." Outside, the chaos was slowly winding down. Eugene was loaded into a police van, arms restrained behind his back, glaring at everyone with venom. As the van door slammed shut, he locked eyes with Xavier, shouting, "You're dead, pilot! You hear me? Dead!" Xavier's lip curled. He walked forward, ignoring the startled looks of a few officers. He leaned close to the grated window, speaking in a low, steely voice. "You lost. My family is safe, and you'll rot in a cell. That's the only future you have." Eugene spat, face contorted with rage. "I have friends." Xavier slammed his palm against the metal door, making a loud clang that startled Eugene into silence. "You got no one, Eugene. Your so-called friends? They're either arrested or in hiding. Don't ever threaten my daughter again." A policeman tapped Xavier's shoulder lightly, urging him to step away. He complied, stepping back as the van rumbled off into the night. For the first time, he felt a shaky exhale escape him, a sense of finality settling in. With the criminals gone, the warehouse cleared, and the local PD finalizing scene management, Cole and his men reconvened outside. The adrenaline that had fueled them for hours was wearing off, replaced by a collective weariness. Franklin rubbed his neck. "Guess that's that. We still have a mountain of legal processes and trials ahead, but the immediate threat is done." Devlin approached with a grin. "Couldn't have done it better myself. Let's hope the city is ready for the shock of seeing so many officials indicted." Xavier scanned the group, offering them all a grateful nod. "You guys saved my family, and you helped me rid the city of a major cancer. I owe you." Cole clapped him on the back. "We did this together. and I suspect folks will be safer now that Eugene's behind bars. Someone pointed out that the sun would rise in a few hours. They parted ways, some heading to finalize paperwork, others going home to catch a few hours of rest. Xavier promised to meet with the DA's office tomorrow to give a formal statement. Then, turning to Franklin, he said, "I'm going to the motel with Jade and Megan. We need to talk. About everything." Franklin nodded, reading the tension behind Xavier's words. "Take it easy on her, man." Xavier only responded with a tight, "I'll try." The drive to the motel was quiet. Jade sat in the back seat, leaning on Megan, who gazed out the window with vacant eyes. Xavier kept his focus on the road, mind racing with unasked questions. When they finally parked, the sky was soft with pre-dawn light. They trudged upstairs to the motel room, a simple space with 2 double beds and a battered dresser. Jade sank onto one bed, exhausted. Megan hovered in the middle of the room, arms wrapped around herself. Xavier stepped into the tiny kitchenette corner, rummaging for water bottles. He handed one to Jade and one to Megan. A tense silence. Then Jade cleared her throat. "Dad, can I go shower? I feel icky from all that tension." He nodded. "Sure, baby. Take your time." Jade disappeared into the bathroom, leaving Megan and Xavier alone. Megan glanced around, tearful. "Xavier, He raised a hand. "I'm gonna talk. You listen first." She swallowed, nodding. He set his water bottle on the chipped nightstand. "You let Eugene into our home. You allowed him to terrorize Jade. You knew he was trouble from your past, yet you turned to him for money. For Stephanie's treatments, right?" Megan's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Yes, she needed advanced chemo that wasn't covered. I was desperate. And Eugene offered help, said he had connections. I knew he was shady, but I never imagined it would lead to all this." Xavier inhaled, trying to steady his anger. "At what point did you realize Jade was in danger?" She closed her eyes. Almost immediately, he demanded more control. He said if I refused, he'd cut off the funds, leaving Stephanie to die. He also threatened Jade's life. I felt trapped, terrified. Every time I tried to push back, he reminded me that I had no money, no resources. I thought if I told you while you were overseas, you'd come charging in and get killed." Xavier's gaze burned. "But you still let him put a bomb in the house." "A bomb that could have killed me, or Jade if she stumbled on it." Megan choked back a sob. "I didn't know it was a bomb at first. He and his men said they were renovating. When I realized it, it was too late. They threatened Jade. They said if I warned you, Jade would pay the price." The tears now streamed freely. "I was a coward, I see that. I chose to protect Stephanie's life, but I let Jade suffer. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I swear I never wanted to betray you or put Jade in harm's way. I was just so scared." Xavier listened, jaw clenched. A large part of him wanted to rail at her for her betrayal, but seeing her trembling, broken, he felt the complexity of the situation. She was a mother caught in a horrifying trap, manipulated by a predator who used her love for her sister as a weapon. He exhaled slowly. I believe you were coerced, Megan. But this doesn't just vanish. Our trust is shattered. Jade's traumatized." She nodded, tears dripping onto the motel carpet. "I accept that. Whatever happens, I just want Jade to heal. I'd do anything to fix this." Xavier's eyes locked on her. "I'll make sure Jade gets therapy, help, whatever she needs. But you and I don't know where we stand. Possibly nowhere." Megan sobbed, face buried in her hands. "I understand." A soft knock on the bathroom door signaled Jade was done. She stepped out, hair damp, wearing an oversized shirt. Her eyes flicked from Megan to Xavier. She could feel the emotional charge in the room. "Mom," Jade said softly, "I am so angry at you, but I also see how scared you were. I don't know how to feel." Megan opened her arms, tears glistening. "If you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday, I'll do anything to earn it." Jade stood still, hugging herself. After a moment, she stepped forward, letting Megan embrace her tentatively. Xavier watched, his heart aching for them both. Jade's voice wavered. "Just promise me no more secrets, no more letting shady people in, okay?" Megan nodded fervently. "Never again, I swear. I'll get help if I have to. Therapy. Anything." They clung to each other, tears mixing. Xavier let the moment unfold, arms crossed over his chest. Eventually, Jade withdrew, wiping her eyes. "Dad," she began, "where do we go from here? Are we going back to the house after the police are done?" He shook his head. "That house is compromised, baby. It's full of bad memories now. We'll sell it or let the bank take it. We'll find a new place, or maybe stay with family or friends for a while." Megan lowered her gaze. "I can move out, find somewhere else, so I don't burden you two." Jade looked torn, but Xavier set his jaw. "That might be best for now. Jade will stay with me, or we'll figure out a better arrangement. You focus on your sister's recovery, your own mental health." Megan nodded with a shaky acceptance. "I'll do that. I have some insurance that can help me get therapy. And Stephanie, hopefully we can still fund her treatments without Eugene's blood money." Xavier let out a breath. "We can handle that. I'm not going to let your sister die just because of what Eugene did. We'll find a legitimate way." Megan's lip trembled in gratitude. They sat quietly, the tension in the room thick. Jade rubbed her arms. "Dad, I'm exhausted. Is it okay if I just rest?" Xavier offered a small, sad smile. "Of course. Take one of the beds. I'll keep watch." Megan hesitated, glancing between them. I'll sit in the chair. I don't want to intrude." Xavier said nothing, letting Jade occupy a bed by the far window. Megan sank into the chair, eyes distant. Sometime around 5 a.m., Jade dozed off. Megan, too, eventually succumbed, leaning her head back. But Xavier remained awake, mind racing with the events of the past days. He walked to the window, gazing out at the motel parking lot. Dawn was breaking in pale pink light, a symbolic new day after the storm. But inside him, a swirl of unresolved anger and heartbreak churned. He whispered to himself, "We survived, but at what cost?" His phone buzzed with a text from Cole. "All detainees processed. DA wants your statement by noon. Media swirling. This will be huge." Xavier typed back, "Understood. Let's finish it." Then he pocketed the phone, glancing at Jade's sleeping form. She was safe, he reminded himself. That was the priority. Everything else, rebuilding trust, forgiving Megan or not, would come later. For the first time in what felt like ages, he let his eyes drift closed. Sleep took him, standing there by the window, soul weary yet strangely at peace that the immediate danger was gone. Xavier awoke 2 hours later, disoriented to find himself in the motel room, sunshine spilling through the curtains. Jade was still asleep, though she stirred slightly as the brightness grew. Megan dozed in the chair, a faint line of tension etched between her brows. Quietly, Xavier slipped outside to get fresh air. The motel balcony overlooked a busy street, cars whizzing by. A small convenience store across the road beckoned with a coffee sign. He felt the weight of everything: the upcoming legal processes, Jade's psychological scars, and the question of how to move forward with Megan. But he also felt a flicker of relief. Eugene was behind bars, the city's corrupt network exposed. Jade was safe. Pulling out his phone, he dialed Franklin. "Hey, you awake?" Xavier asked, voice low. Franklin's sleepy chuckle came over the line. "Barely. Crashed at 6 a.m. after all that chaos. We did good, though, right?" "Yeah," Xavier said. "We did. Look, I'm taking Jade to the DA's office around noon. Then we might find a more permanent place to stay. I can't go back to that house." Franklin paused. "If you need anything help scouting apartments, storing your stuff, just ask." Xavier's chest tightened with gratitude. "Thank you. Right now, I just want Jade to have some normalcy." "Understood, man. Let's keep each other posted." He ended the call, heading downstairs for coffee. A few passers-by gave him cursory glances, but none recognized him as the man who'd orchestrated a massive takedown the night before. He was just another tired face in a line for caffeine. He returned to the room with 2 cups. Jade was awake, rummaging in her overnight bag for clothes. Megan was rubbing her eyes. "Morning," he said, handing Jade a coffee. "Got one for you." She smiled, still subdued. "Thanks, Dad," she sipped. "Feels weird, you know? Everything changed so fast." He nodded, glancing at Megan, who rose stiffly from the chair. "I'm going to freshen up in the bathroom," she murmured, avoiding eye contact. When she closed the door, Jade exhaled. Are we? Are we going to act like a family again? Or is Mom out of the picture? Xavier's gaze softened at Jade's directness. I don't have an easy answer, Jade. Your mom messed up, but she's also hurting. We might need space. Doesn't mean we hate her. Jade stared at her coffee cup. I'm angry, but also, I see how desperate she was. Stephanie's cancer is real, and Eugene took advantage. Xavier placed a hand on Jade's shoulder. You don't have to forgive her overnight. Take your time. We'll figure it out, maybe with therapy. Right now, let's get you stable. Get me stable, then we'll see about the rest. Jade nodded, eyes brimming with unshed tears. The bathroom door opened, Megan stepping out. She looked slightly fresher, hair brushed, face rinsed. I heard some of that, she admitted quietly. I'll stay out of your way, but I appreciate any chance to see Jade. Help her if she'll let me. A tension-laden silence followed. Finally, Jade sighed. Let's not talk about it too much right now. We have a big day, right? The DA's office? Xavier latched onto that. Yes. I have to give a formal statement. Jade, they might want a minor statement from you, too, about your captivity, but I won't force you to speak if you're uncomfortable. Jade took a breath. I can handle it. If it puts Eugene away for life, I'll do it. Megan chewed her lip. They might want me to testify as well, especially about how he forced me to let him in. Xavier nodded tersely. Likely. The more testimony we have, the stronger the case. Megan managed a small, sad smile. Then I'll do it. I want him to face the consequences. They packed up quickly, returning the motel key to the front desk. Jade insisted on riding with Xavier, and Megan offered to take an Uber to the DA's office separately, giving them space. Xavier didn't object. Driving through the city midday traffic, Jade fiddled with the radio, eventually settling on a quiet pop station. She was subdued, a far cry from the carefree teenager who'd once teased him about his old man's music. How you holding up, sweetie? He asked gently, catching her reflection in the rearview mirror. She shrugged. It's weird, Dad. Like I'm relieved, but everything's upside down. Our house might be gone. Mom's. I don't know. My future feels uncertain. Xavier's heart clenched. He reached over, giving her hand a supportive squeeze. We'll rebuild, Jade, I promise. We'll find a better place, maybe an apartment. You'll finish school, hopefully with less stress. We'll get therapy, figure it out step by step. She offered a tentative nod. Thanks for coming home, she whispered, voice thick with emotion. He swallowed. I'll always come for you, no matter where I am. They fell into a solemn silence, the city's bustle swirling around them. The district attorney's office was housed in a tall, imposing building downtown. Franklin, Cole, and a couple of the ex-cops were already there, along with official police liaisons who were considered clean. They guided Xavier and Jade through the labyrinth of hallways to a waiting room. Jade sat, hugging her backpack to her chest. Franklin leaned against the wall, a small grin of encouragement on his face. Glad you're both safe, he murmured. Soon, a staff member ushered them in. The DA, an older woman with a sharp gaze, welcomed them politely, flanked by an assistant taking notes. They wanted a blow-by-blow account of Eugene's infiltration into Xavier's home, the bomb, the kidnapping elements, the extortion attempts. Xavier recounted everything calmly, only faltering when describing Jade's distress. Jade chimed in occasionally, clarifying details about how the men forced her to clean, threatened her, laughed about the pilot's funeral. It was heavy, but Jade stayed composed, probably fueled by the desire to lock Eugene away. The DA's expression darkened at the mention of the bomb. He rigged your hallway with explosives? That's attempted murder in the first degree. Combined with the other charges, we're looking at a potential life sentence. Xavier nodded. Good. Megan arrived midway through, escorted by an assistant. She avoided Xavier's eyes but cooperated fully, describing how Eugene coerced her with money for Stephanie's treatments, how he threatened Jade if she resisted. She broke down briefly, apologizing for letting them into the house. The DA paused the recorder, allowing Megan to regain composure. Then they continued, capturing every detail. In the end, the DA thanked them. We have an overwhelming case. Once we tie in the official corruption charges from the City Hall documents, plus the statements from the safe house raid, Eugene and his allies will face multiple felony counts. Cole, leaning in a corner, nodded. We also plan to release some of this to the press so the public is aware. That ensures no backroom deals can hush it up. Xavier exhaled, a mixture of relief and residual anger. The DA closed her folder. We'll likely ask you to testify in court, but that won't be for weeks or months. For now, you can rest. And Miss Megan, you might want legal counsel if you fear any repercussion from your involvement. Megan swallowed. I'll do whatever is needed. Jade sat quietly, eyes distant, probably just wanting to leave the building. They stepped into the corridor. The tension in the air was thick, not from immediate danger, but from the emotional weight of recounting everything. Jade folded into Xavier's arms again, letting out a shaky breath. Glad that's done. He stroked her hair. You did great. Megan lingered a few paces away, uncertain. Franklin discreetly guided them toward an elevator. Let's get out of here. Maybe find some real lunch, he suggested, trying to lighten the mood. They ended up at a nearby cafe, a subdued group huddled around a booth. Jade picked at a sandwich. Megan sipped tea. Franklin attempted small talk about innocuous topics like the weather. Xavier mostly stared at his coffee, mind distant. At one point, Jade asked softly, So, Dad, what about the house? Do I have to go get my clothes and stuff at some point? Xavier nodded. We'll coordinate with the cops to let us retrieve personal belongings. Then we'll decide if we're selling it or what. I don't want to stay there. Megan murmured, I can handle that if you prefer. We can have the cops or Franklin accompany me while I pack things. Jade shrugged. I can handle it too if Dad's there. But yeah, that place feels tainted. Xavier rubbed his temples. We'll figure it out, one step at a time. After the meal, Franklin parted ways, leaving the family trio in an awkward bubble of shared history and uncertain future. Jade lingered close to her father, while Megan hovered. Outside the cafe, Megan asked, Where will you two stay tonight? Xavier considered. I might get a short-term rental or extended-stay hotel. Franklin offered to let us crash at his place, but that might be too cramped. We'll see. Megan lowered her eyes. I'll stay with Stephanie. I need to explain everything to her. I also have to figure out how we'll pay for her treatment now that Eugene's out of the picture. Jade bristled slightly at the mention of Eugene, but said nothing. Megan tentatively touched Jade's shoulder. Stay safe, okay? Jade stiffened, then nodded once. She didn't pull away, but neither did she embrace her mom. Megan withdrew her hand, tears gleaming. Xavier felt a pang. Despite everything, he couldn't watch her crumble completely. Megan, he said softly, focus on healing yourself too. If you need me to sign something for Stephanie's hospital costs, let me know. We'll try to keep her alive, just not with dirty money. Megan swallowed hard. Thank you, she whispered. I'm sorry, she added again, tears threatening. Then she slipped into an Uber. Jade watched her go, face unreadable. Xavier gently steered Jade to his car. Let's find a decent hotel or maybe an Airbnb. We can afford a couple weeks. Then we'll consider a more permanent place. Jade nodded. Okay. Dad, thanks for not being too harsh on Mom. I mean, she messed up, but I see how broken she is. He sighed, starting the engine. I'm not sure how to feel. Part of me wants to blame her for everything. Another part sees how Eugene manipulated her. Jade rested her head back. Me too. But at least we're safe now. They pulled onto the main road, the city unfolding around them in normal midday hustle. For the first time in weeks, Jade seemed calmer, though still subdued. Xavier decided to treat her to something small, maybe a new phone or a new outfit, some gesture to restore a sense of normal teenage life. At a department store, Jade picked out some clothes, and Xavier insisted on paying. She gave a ghost of a smile. You never used to be so free with your wallet, she teased, voice a whisper of her old humor. He chuckled, though sorrow tinged his tone. We've been through enough. A new hoodie won't break me. They booked into a modest hotel suite with 2 bedrooms. Jade retreated to hers, rummaging through the clothes they'd just bought. Xavier sat heavily on the small couch, flipping on the TV. News channels blared coverage of a major organized crime bust, teasing that high-level city officials might face indictment. A reporter stood outside City Hall, citing anonymous vigilantes and ex-law enforcement who assisted. Xavier muted it, leaning his head back against the couch. Jade stepped out from her room, glancing at the TV. "They're talking about us, kinda." He nodded, half smiling. "World's discovering what we did." She moved closer, eyes on the screen. "Dad, do you think, after this, you'll keep working with Franklin? Like forming a security or detective thing?" He blinked, remembering the rush he felt taking down Eugene, protecting the innocent. The sense of purpose, ironically, was something he hadn't felt in years, not since his active duty. "It's possible. People out there need help, especially when the system's corrupt. Maybe I can do some good." Jade considered. "You'd be good at it." He reached out, gently pulling her into a sideways hug. "Let's settle ourselves first, kid. Then we'll see." She rested her head on his shoulder, letting out a soft sigh. "Yeah, I just want normal for a bit. School, soccer maybe." He kissed the top of her head. "We'll make normal happen." In that quiet moment, father and daughter found a calm that had eluded them for so long. Outside, the city buzzed with the fallout from Eugene's collapse. For them, though, it was a time to breathe, to begin the slow healing from the nightmare that had consumed their home. Early morning sunlight streamed through the thin curtains of the modest hotel suite, casting faint golden patterns across the carpeting. Jade was still asleep, nestled under a comforter. Xavier stood by the small kitchenette, sipping a cup of instant coffee that tasted more like rust than roast. He hadn't slept well, haunted by half-formed dreams of bombs and shouting matches. Now the quiet morning felt almost surreal. No more armed thugs in his living room. No more frantic calls from Jade, begging him to come home. Eugene, that orchestrator of chaos, was behind bars. Yet the aftermath had hardly begun. He stared at the window. The city outside bustled with early commuters, some heading to the office, others stopping for coffee before 9-to-5 jobs. For them, life rolled on, unaffected by the cataclysmic shift in his personal world. The difference stung. While they worried about traffic or deadlines, he was trying to piece together a family that felt irreparably shattered. Setting the coffee down, he crossed the room to check on Jade. She stirred, blinking open her eyes. "Morning, Dad," she murmured, voice drowsy. "Morning. You hungry?" he asked gently. She rubbed her face. "A little. I'm more worried about how we're going to handle everything today." "Let's just start slow," he offered. "Grab breakfast. Maybe see if Franklin or Cole has any updates about the legal side. After that, we can figure out a plan for the rest of our stuff at the house." Jade sat up, hair askew. "I can't believe we have to go back there." Xavier exhaled, sitting on the edge of her bed. "I hate it too, but we need clothes, important papers, and we have a ton of memories, good and bad. We'll do it quickly with police backup if we want." She nodded, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. "And what about Mom? She said she's going to Stephanie's, right?" "Yeah." He paused, remembering Megan's trembling confession. "She'll likely spend time at the hospital. She texted last night, said she'll call us if she needs help. For now, I think space is best." Jade swallowed. She was crying a lot in the cafe. "I feel bad, but I can't just forgive everything yet." He placed a hand on her knee. "You don't have to rush forgiveness. Take your time." She gave him a grateful half-smile. "Thanks, Dad." They got dressed and headed out to a small diner 2 blocks from the hotel. The sidewalk bustled with pedestrians in business attire, the hum of traffic constant. It felt oddly comforting to be amid normal city life, where people's main concerns were lateness or coffee orders. In the diner, the smell of bacon and pancakes helped ground them. They slid into a booth. Jade ordered pancakes. Xavier opted for eggs and toast. The waitress, a friendly woman with crow's feet around her eyes, jotted down their orders and bustled away. Jade traced a finger over the diner's sticky menu. "So any word from the DA?" Xavier took a swig of water. "I emailed Cole. The DA's building a case that might implicate multiple big names, some local, some at the state level. Eugene is the main piece. If he tries to make a deal, he might start naming folks left and right." Jade frowned. What if he tries to drag Mom into deeper trouble? Xavier's jaw tightened. He'd thought of that too. Megan had cooperated, but in Eugene's eyes, she was just another pawn. Megan's text messages and testimonies prove she was coerced. The DA seems sympathetic. They don't intend to charge her as an accomplice. She's more like a material witness. Jade let out a breath. Good. The last thing we need is more legal mess. Agreed. The waitress returned with their plates. Jade dug into her pancakes, the sweet smell of syrup wafting up. For a moment, they ate in companionable silence. Finally, Jade ventured, So, what's the plan after we gather our stuff from the house? Are we staying in the hotel long-term? He wiped his mouth with a napkin. We can't stay in a hotel forever, too expensive and not stable. Maybe we rent an apartment while figuring out next steps. We could look at some listings this afternoon if you're up for it. She shrugged. Sure. I'm not ready to go back to school yet, not after, you know. His heart twisted. Take all the time you need. We'll find a counselor, maybe talk to the school about your situation. They'll understand. You've been through a lot. She nodded, still picking at her food. Thanks, Dad. After breakfast, they returned to the hotel to gather their jackets. Jade scrolled on her phone while Xavier double-checked directions to their old neighborhood. The place he once called home was now a crime scene turned police evidence site. He wondered if any uniformed officers would still be stationed there. Before they left, Jade answered a call from an unknown number, eyebrows raised. Hello? She paused, then her face lit. Oh, hey, Uncle Franklin. She handed the phone to Xavier. Franklin's voice came through, upbeat but urgent. Xavier, good news. The police say you can retrieve belongings from the house anytime today. They've finished their initial sweep for evidence. They left a couple of uniformed officers if you want them around. All right, Xavier replied. We're heading over now. You around? Got a meeting with Cole soon, but I can come by after. Maybe help load a few boxes if needed? Thanks. That'd be great. They ended the call. Jade pocketed the phone. At least we won't be rummaging in the dark. Let's get it over with. Xavier nodded, trying to tamp down the anxious swirl in his gut. Driving into their old neighborhood felt like entering a memory that had soured. The neat lawns and suburban calm remained, but the house at the corner, once their cozy home, loomed like a monument to betrayal. Jade stared out the window, expression grim. They parked in the driveway, noticing a police cruiser on the curb. 2 officers stood talking by the fence. Xavier recognized one from the warehouse raid the previous night, presumably a clean cop from the station. The officer waved them over. Mr. Kincaid, Miss Kincaid, he greeted politely. All clear inside. We just ask you not to disturb any marked evidence areas, but you can gather personal items. Let us know if you need anything. Xavier forced a grateful smile. Thanks, officer. Then he turned to Jade. Ready? She inhaled sharply. As I'll ever be. They stepped through the front door, an echo of the fear that once plagued these hallways. The living room was eerily quiet, sunlight filtering through curtains that were half-drawn. Furniture was rearranged from the night of the raid, some seats overturned or lined with police tape. The smell of stale smoke and spilled beer lingered. Jade's eyes flicked around, clearly unsettled. Ugh, it's gross in here. They trashed the place. Yeah, he muttered, stepping carefully around a police tape marker. Let's grab the essentials from the bedrooms first. Then we'll handle the living room stuff if we want it. Honestly, I might just burn half of it. She huffed a humorless laugh. I second that. They headed upstairs, careful to avoid taped-off sections. Jade entered her room with caution, as though expecting a ghost. She flicked the light switch, seeing her bed rumpled, clothes scattered. Likely the intruders had rummaged through her belongings. She made a face. Creeps probably tried on my clothes or something. Xavier's mouth hardened. I'm sorry, Jade. She shook her head, rummaging for a duffel bag. Let's just do this. She began yanking favorite sweaters, pants, personal mementos off her shelves. Each item seemed to carry a memory, a soccer trophy, a framed photo of her with old friends. The innocence of her teenage years felt overshadowed by the horrors of the past weeks. He helped her carefully stack them. Occasionally, she paused to stare at something, a stuffed animal from childhood, a birthday card from Megan. Each memory stung, but she pressed on. In about 30 minutes, the duffel was packed, plus an extra box of textbooks and keepsakes. While Jade taped up her boxes, Xavier slipped into his and Megan's old bedroom. He inhaled sharply at the sight. The bed was stripped, the mattress half off the frame. A few suitcases lay open, rummaged, broken glass from a lamp. He couldn't help remembering nights he and Megan had shared here back before all this. The sense of betrayal churned again. He spotted an evidence marker by the closet, likely where the bomb's wiring had run. He repressed a shudder, stepping carefully around it. Collecting his clothes from the dresser, he realized how little of this life he actually wanted to keep. Ties, suits, old uniform jackets. He grabbed essentials and stuffed them into a luggage bag. The rest, he figured, might go to charity or the trash. He didn't want reminders of the illusions he once held. He found a small photo album under the bed, half torn. A series of older pictures, him in uniform, Megan smiling, Jade a toddler. He stared at Megan's radiant grin, the love in her eyes that day. He almost felt physical pain at the memory of who they used to be. With a sigh, he tucked the album away, uncertain if Jade would want it or if Megan might. They reconvened in the upstairs hallway. Jade had placed her duffel in a couple boxes near the top of the stairs. Her expression was a mix of anger and sorrow. "You okay?" he asked softly. She shrugged, arms crossed. "It's weird seeing my room trashed, but I got what matters." She glanced at her father's bag. "How about you?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm good, not taking much. Let's see if there's anything from the kitchen or living room we need." They descended together. The living room reeked of stale cigarettes. Beer cans littered corners. The police had removed some evidence, but the couch was still partially torn, and the coffee table had a chunk missing. Jade grimaced. "I don't think we want any of this." "Agreed," he said. "We can replace furniture. Maybe just check for important documents, tax forms, passports. They might be in the office." Sure enough, in the small office nook near the kitchen, they found a locked filing cabinet. The lock was busted, apparently forced open by Eugene's men. Paper scattered inside. Jade helped rummage, pulling out birth certificates, insurance policies, and her school records. They shoved them into a box. Jade stumbled across a few hospital bills for Stephanie, too. She bit her lip, reading the amounts. "These are huge. No wonder Mom panicked, but still." Xavier's jaw clenched. "She should have come to me. We would have found another way." Jade nodded, gently placing them in the box. "Yeah." They were nearly done when they heard a knock at the open front door. Franklin's voice echoed. "Anybody home?" Xavier called. "Back here." Franklin appeared, stepping over debris. He whistled low. "Man, they really did a number on this place." Then he noticed the boxes. "Need a hand?" Jade smiled faintly. "Yeah, thanks. We're about done, though. Just need help loading them into the car." Franklin grabbed a couple boxes. "No problem. Cole wanted me to tell you that the DA's pushing for an early hearing for Eugene to keep him from wriggling out on bail. They have enough to label him a flight risk." Xavier exhaled relief. "Good. Last thing we need is him posted up somewhere, seeking revenge." Jade shivered at the thought. Franklin patted her shoulder. "Don't worry, kid. He's not going anywhere. They're upping security around him." They loaded the boxes and bags into Xavier's trunk. The entire process took less than half an hour. The house was left looking ransacked and abandoned, a husk of what it once was. Jade stood in the driveway, staring up at the second-floor windows. "Are we going to come back, or is this it?" Xavier hesitated. "We might need to sign some final paperwork if we sell or let the bank handle foreclosure. But living here? No. This place is done for us." She nodded, shoulders sagging. Franklin gave her a comforting side hug. "New beginnings can be scary, but they can also be good," he said softly. Jade mustered a small smile, then slid into the passenger seat of Xavier's car. Franklin offered Xavier a quick handshake. "I'll catch you later. We can talk about your next steps job-wise if you want." "Thanks," Xavier said, voice sincere. With that, father and daughter pulled away from the curb, leaving behind the house that had once been home and the countless memories, both warm and haunting, sealed inside those walls like ghosts. Back at the hotel, they lugged the boxes up to their suite. Jade flopped onto her bed, looking emotionally drained. Xavier felt the same. He placed the bags near the closet, rummaging for a second. He pulled out the small photo album he'd found. "I found this," he told Jade. "Old pictures. Not sure if you want them or if we should toss them." Jade sat up, interest piqued. She patted the mattress beside her. "Let's see." He handed it over, letting her flip through. Pictures of Jade as a toddler in Megan's arms, Xavier in uniform, the three of them at a park. Jade's eyes misted. "We look so happy." "We were," he murmured, resting a hand on her shoulder, "until life happened." She touched a photo of Megan beaming at the camera, Jade in pigtails hugging her mother's leg. "I miss that mom," she admitted in a whisper. Xavier felt a surge of guilt. "I do too." He paused. "She's not gone forever, Jade. People can change, heal. Maybe in time you two can rebuild some relationship." She nodded, tears brimming. "I hope so." Then she sniffed, shutting the album gently. "But not right now. I'm still too angry." "That's okay," he assured. By mid-afternoon, they decided to check out the short-term apartment listings. Jade scrolled on her phone, reading descriptions aloud. "There's a 2-bedroom unit near Cole's office building, a bit pricey," she said. "Another further out in the suburbs, cheaper, but I don't really want suburban again." Xavier rubbed his temples. "I'd prefer something near the city anyway, so we're closer to the DA's office, the counseling center, and so on." They eventually found a listing for a furnished 2-bedroom downtown. The price was steep, but it offered month-to-month rental perfect for their uncertain situation. Jade shrugged. "Why not check it out? At least it'll feel new, no old ghosts." Xavier called the landlord, arranged a viewing the next morning. He hung up feeling a bit lighter, an actual plan forming. They spent the rest of the afternoon in the hotel, Jade dozing. Xavier scrolled job boards half-heartedly. He saw plenty of security and private investigation postings. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd orchestrated a major vigilante-style takedown, but had no official license to do investigative work. Could that be his next move? A knock at the door startled him. He opened it to find Megan, hair pulled back, clutching a small purse. She looked tense. "Mind if I come in?" she asked softly. Jade stirred in bed, noticing her mother's presence. She pulled the covers up, clearly not thrilled. Xavier frowned, but stepped aside. "Sure," he said quietly. Megan entered, glancing around the small suite. She spotted Jade on the bed and offered a tentative smile. Jade looked away, pressing her lips tight. Megan sighed. "I won't stay long. I just needed to update you. I visited Stephanie. She's stable for now, but her oncologist said the next round of chemo is crucial. Without it, her odds drop drastically." Xavier's chest tightened. "And the cost?" Megan's voice shook. "Around $20,000 for the next set of treatments. We don't have that. My credit is shot. The money we had was from Eugene. It's gone, or it's evidence in his accounts. I don't know what to do." Jade's eyes flashed anger. "So you come to Dad for more money?" Megan winced. "Jade, I'm not trying to exploit your father. We have no one else. My parents are dead. We have no siblings besides Stephanie, and her insurance is tapped out. I'm desperate." Xavier took a slow breath. He could sense Jade's hostility, but also Megan's genuine fear. "We'll see what we can do," he said, voice controlled. "I might be able to pull from my savings, or we can set up a fundraiser. I don't want her to die, Megan, but we can't handle it the way you did before." Megan's eyes brimmed with tears. "I know. I'm sorry. I've been talking to hospital social workers about payment plans or charities. They said it could help, but might not cover everything." Jade fiddled with the blankets, avoiding her mother's gaze. "I hate that the system is so broken. People like Eugene step in to fill that gap, but they exploit folks." Megan nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Yes, that's exactly it, and I fell right into his trap." An awkward silence settled. Xavier cleared his throat. "Look, one step at a time. I'll check my finances. Maybe we can arrange partial payments. Let me talk to Franklin, see if we can raise money legally. This is about saving your sister's life, but it has to be on the up and up." Megan exhaled, relief mixing with guilt. "Thank you, truly. I'll handle the hospital forms. If I can start therapy soon, I might stabilize enough to find a job again, maybe. God, I feel so worthless. Jade finally spoke, voice tight but not outright hostile. You're not worthless, just messed up. Megan choked out a sad chuckle, wiping her tears. Yes, that's accurate. A phone chime interrupted them. Jade picked up her phone. It's from a blocked number? She blinked, reading the text. Her face paled. Dad? Xavier's alarm bells went off. What does it say? She swallowed, eyes wide. It says your father can't protect you forever, Princess. Eugene has friends on the outside. Watch your back. Megan's breath caught. Oh, God. Xavier's hand clenched into a fist, rage igniting. Let me see. Jade handed him the phone. The text was anonymous, obviously a threat. Damn it, he muttered. We took down Eugene, but maybe some of his associates are still free. Megan's face drained of color. We told the DA everything. I thought they arrested most of them. Maybe not all, Jade whispered, fear creeping into her eyes. Xavier exhaled, trying to remain calm. We'll report this to Cole and the police right now. Jade, you block that number. We'll keep your phone on high alert. These cowards are trying to intimidate us. Megan bit her lip, tears threatening again. This is never going to end, is it? Xavier placed a hand on Jade's shoulder. It will. They're just lashing out. Without Eugene's leadership or finances, they're running scared. He turned to Megan. Don't panic. We'll handle it. He sent a snapshot of the text to Cole with a quick message. Threat from unknown number, possibly leftover Eugene associates. Please advise on next steps. Cole replied within minutes. We'll forward to detective leading the case. They can trace the number or see if it's a burner, increase vigilance, possibly get a protective detail. Xavier read it aloud. Jade's face stiffened with resolve. If they think I'm some timid kid, they're mistaken. I might be scared, but I refuse to be their victim again. Pride mingled with paternal worry in Xavier's chest. Damn right, he murmured. We'll keep you safe. This new threat overshadowed the final moments of Megan's visit. She hovered near the door, eyes flicking between Jade and Xavier. I should go. You have enough on your plate. Just thank you for hearing me out about Stephanie. Xavier nodded curtly. We'll be in touch. Jade offered a reluctant nod. Bye, Mom. Megan left, shoulders slumped. The door clicked shut behind her, and father and daughter breathed in tandem, tension swirling. Jade sank onto the bed again. I hate this. I thought it was over. Xavier knelt beside her. The big threat Eugene's empire is crippled. But yeah, some stragglers might still cause trouble. We'll take precautions. If it gets worse, the police or Cole's guys can provide short-term protection. I can also watch out for you 24/7. She exhaled slowly. I trust you, Dad. Just promise me we won't let them run our lives with fear. He set a firm hand on her shoulder. We won't. I promise. As afternoon light slanted through the curtains, they shared a quiet understanding. The battle might not be fully over, but they had each other's back, and for now, that would have to be enough. Sunlight glinted off the glass exterior of the downtown apartment building as Xavier and Jade approached for their scheduled viewing. It was a sleek high-rise, far fancier than any place they'd lived before. Jade seemed a mix of curiosity and apprehension. They entered the lobby, greeted by the faint hum of air conditioning and the quiet beep of an electronic directory. A young leasing agent emerged, a bright smile plastered across her face. Mr. Kincaid? Welcome. I'm Mariah. Let me show you the unit. She led them into an elevator, pressing the button for the 11th floor. Jade fiddled with her phone, still watchful for any suspicious texts, but nothing new had come in since the threatening message. Xavier, too, was on high alert, scanning the faces of passing tenants with a soldier's practiced eye. The elevator chimed. Mariah opened the door to a corner suite. Sunlight flooded in from floor-to-ceiling windows, revealing a panoramic view of downtown. The living area boasted modern furniture, a small but functional kitchen, and 2 modest bedrooms down a short hallway. Jade wandered around, lightly touching surfaces. This is so city chick, she muttered. Mariah laughed. It's fully furnished, all utilities included. We do month-to-month or 6-month leases. The building has 24-hour security, gym access, and a rooftop garden. Xavier eyed the sturdy front door and the digital lock system. 24-hour security? Mariah nodded enthusiastically. Yes, we have cameras in the halls and a front desk guard at night. You'd be quite safe here. A flicker of relief passed over Jade's face, though she said nothing. Xavier filed that away. Safety was a priority, especially after the threatening text. They walked through the bedrooms. One was slightly larger, with a queen bed and a decent closet. The other had a double bed. Both had wide windows. Jade peeked into the smaller room. I could live here. Mariah prattled on about the building's amenities: laundry on each floor, a lounge area, a mailroom. Xavier half-listened, mentally ticking off safety features. The monthly rent was high, but his savings, plus his partial military pension, might cover it for a few months. Enough time to figure out their next big step. He asked, "How soon can we move in?" Mariah brightened. "We can finalize paperwork today, and you could move tomorrow. We just need references, Idaho. First month plus deposit. You do month to month, right?" "Yes, that's correct," Xavier confirmed. Jade bit her lip, glancing between her father and the agent. "Seems okay, Dad," he agreed. "We'll do it. Where do we sign?" Mariah beamed, handing them a tablet to fill out a digital application. Jade paced near the window, letting her father handle the forms. She gazed at the city skyline, traffic gliding below. A new horizon beckoned, free from suburban nightmares. Within an hour, they'd completed formalities. Mariah promised to text them once the background check cleared. She anticipated no issues, given Xavier's stable income documentation. They left the building, stepping onto the sunny sidewalk with a sense of mild excitement. Jade exhaled. "I like it." "Fresh start." Xavier managed a small smile. "Yeah, me too." By noon, they were back in the hotel, waiting for Mariah's call. Jade scrolled social media on her phone while Xavier rummaged through a hamper of clothes, preparing to do laundry. His phone buzzed. Franklin's name popped up. "Hey," Xavier greeted. Franklin's tone carried a note of urgency. "We got partial info on that threatening text to Jade. The police traced it to a burner phone bought with cash at a convenience store near the industrial district. No solid leads yet, but we suspect a low-level thug from Eugene's circle. Just be careful." Xavier frowned. "Figures. Thanks for the update." "Sure thing. Also, Cole says the DA wants you in for another statement soon. There's talk Eugene might try for a plea deal, naming names. They want all details consistent." "All right, let me know when." After they hung up, Xavier relayed the intel to Jade. She pressed her lips together. "So basically, they have no clue who threatened me, but it's one of Eugene's scumbag buddies?" "Yep. But that buddy might not have resources or manpower to do real harm. Still, we stay vigilant," he assured. She nodded, hugging her knees. "Guess that means no more jogging alone, huh?" He forced a gentle smile. "Not for a while, but we'll figure out ways to keep life normal." Later that afternoon, Jade suggested they head to a nearby mall for some mental escape from the tension. Xavier agreed distraction might help. They walked the corridors, Jade checking out teen fashion stores, Xavier trailing with mild amusement. In one store, Jade tried on sneakers. She came out, eyebrows raised. "Dad, can you believe how pricey these are?" He smirked. "Buy them if you like them. We're not that broke yet." She laughed, surprising him with a flash of genuine teenage joy. "Okay, sugar daddy," she teased, the old playful glint returning. He chuckled, missing the days when their biggest concern was picking out shoes or planning a family vacation. For a fleeting moment, life felt normal. He clung to that. They grabbed a smoothie each, strolling the bustling mall. Jade commented on passing couples, giggling at goofy shirts. Xavier occasionally scanned the crowd, warily looking for any suspicious face. The threat text still loomed in his mind. No one followed them. They eventually headed back to the hotel, arms filled with small shopping bags, Jade's mood visibly lighter. As evening approached, his phone dinged with a message from Mariah. "Background check cleared. You can pick up keys tomorrow morning. Congrats." Jade whooped softly, reading over his shoulder. "Yes, we're out of the hotel finally." Xavier felt a wave of relief. "We'll start moving our boxes tomorrow." She paused, glancing at their stacked boxes. "Dad, You think we should maybe invite Mom to see the new place? Or is that too soon? He weighed the question carefully. Up to you, Jade. If you want her to see it, that's fine. But if you're not ready, she scratched her cheek, uncertain. I kinda want to show her we're not helpless. But also, yeah, not sure if I want her in our space yet. He nodded. No rush. We can keep it just us for now. Let's settle in. Make it comfortable. Then, if and when you're ready, we can invite her. Yeah. Okay, she said with a small smile. A knock at the door startled them. Xavier tensed, but Jade checked the peephole. It's Franklin, she said, unlocking it. Franklin strolled in wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Hey guys, brought some takeout. He lifted a plastic bag that smelled of Chinese food. Jade beamed. Awesome, I'm starving. She rummaged for plates while Franklin set the containers on the small hotel desk. As they ate, Franklin updated them on the continuing legal saga. The DA's building a monstrous case. They've indicted 4 city officials already. 2 more are resigning. The senator's holed up in his mansion, lawyering up. It's a big deal. Jade listened, chewing orange chicken. Think they'll come after us for statements? Franklin nodded. They might. You and your dad are star witnesses about the bomb plot, plus the intimidation. But with Eugene locked up, everything's in your favor. The public narrative is brave father-daughter overcame criminals. That sells newspapers. Jade flushed. We didn't do it for headlines. Of course not, Franklin said gently. But it does help the cause. People see your story, they rally behind it. Puts pressure on the justice system to do the right thing. Xavier, leaning back in his chair, studied Franklin. So what's next for you? You going back to your freelance security gigs? Franklin shrugged. Maybe. But man, after all this, I'm thinking we could do more. Like an official private security or investigative firm. We already showed we can handle big fish. People might pay for that kind of expertise. Xavier's gaze flickered with interest. Like a partnership? Real PI licenses, maybe protection services? Franklin grinned. Why not? Cole's ex-cop buddies might join. We'd fill a gap, help folks who can't fully trust local PD or need specialized security. We'd keep it legit. Jade perked up. That sounds cool. Dad's basically a real-life action hero. Xavier chuckled, though pride warmed his chest. I'm not opposed. Let's talk details after I get Jade settled. Franklin nodded, turning serious. We'll do it properly. No vigilante stunts. Make a real difference legally. Agreed, Xavier said softly. After dinner, Franklin helped them load some of their boxes into his SUV, planning to store them short-term. Jade's eyes lit with excitement at the idea of the new apartment, especially with the building's security system. As Franklin departed, Jade and Xavier fell into a companionable quiet. She browsed YouTube videos on her phone, something about mental health coping. Xavier typed notes on a small notepad, brainstorming potential business structures for the PI idea. Eventually, Jade asked, Dad, do you think in that job you'd chase people like Eugene all the time? Isn't that dangerous? He considered. Dangerous, yes, but I have a skill set from my military experience and from taking him down. If I can put it to good use, help others in trouble, maybe I owe it to them. She studied him for a moment. I get it. Just be careful. I don't want to worry every night about you coming home or not. He smiled, reaching over to squeeze her hand. I promise you I'll do it safely. We'll have a real team, standard procedures, no half-cocked heroics. She nodded, seeming reassured. Then I support it. You saved me. Maybe you can save others. They watched a movie together, some light-hearted comedy about a ragtag group of friends. Jade giggled at silly jokes, leaning her head on his shoulder. For a few precious hours, the horrors of the past weeks receded. They were just father and daughter, enjoying a mundane evening. The film ended around 10 p.m., Jade yawning. She retreated to her bed, scrolling social media. Xavier checked the door locks twice, mindful of lingering threats. Then he sank onto his own bed, flicking off the lamp. He stared at the ceiling, mind whirling with half-formed dreams. An apartment downtown, a fledgling detective agency, Jade hopefully returning to a normal teenage life, and Megan somewhere, working on redemption. He wondered if eventually they might find a partial reconciliation, or if that was a pipe dream. Either way, tomorrow signaled a new chapter with the apartment move. He closed his eyes, letting the exhaustion of the day pull him under. For once, sleep came without the searing nightmares, only a gentle drift into the unknown. Morning found them both eager to move. Jade was up first, rummaging in her suitcase for fresh clothes. Xavier arranged with the hotel to check out by noon. Then they stuffed the remainder of their belongings into the trunk of his car. Franklin texted that he'd meet them at the new apartment to help. They arrived at the high-rise around 10 a.m. Mariah greeted them with keys, a friendly grin. "Welcome to your new home. Sign here." She handed over a lease agreement. Xavier signed, Jade peering over his shoulder. They rode the elevator up, boxes in hand. Jade practically bounced on her toes. "I call the smaller bedroom," she joked, referencing how the bigger bedroom might be more suitable for her father. He ruffled her hair, a teasing grin. Inside, everything looked just as pristine as before. The unit smelled faintly of cleaning products. Jade darted into her chosen bedroom, dropping a backpack onto the bed. "This is actually perfect," she called out. Xavier, setting down a box in the living room, exhaled contentedly. The large windows flooded the space with daylight. A crisp, new beginning indeed. As promised, there was a security camera in the hallway outside, and he confirmed a doorman was on duty in the lobby. Satisfied, he closed the front door behind them. Franklin showed up an hour later with a small van of boxes they'd stored at his place. He helped carry them up, panting. "Man, you guys have more stuff than I expected." Jade snorted. "It's mostly my clothes. I have no regrets." They spent the next few hours organizing. Jade claimed the dresser in her bedroom, carefully hanging up outfits. Xavier stacked his minimal belongings in the master bedroom, feeling grateful to have parted with so much of the old stuff. It was liberating, in a way, to own less. The living room came together nicely with the furnished couches and table. The kitchen was stocked with basic utensils. Jade typed a grocery list on her phone. "We need real food, Dad. Instant noodles won't cut it forever." He made a face of mock offense. "But instant noodles are my specialty." She rolled her eyes good-naturedly. By late afternoon, they'd made a decent dent in unpacking. Franklin collapsed on the couch. "Phew, done. Y'all owe me lunch." Xavier grinned. "Deal. Let's find a place nearby." They decided on a local sandwich shop within walking distance, wanting to explore the neighborhood. The three strolled down the bustling downtown street, Jade snapping pictures on her phone, capturing the new environment. The smell of coffee shops and fresh pastries wafted from storefronts. At the sandwich shop, they grabbed a booth. Jade devoured a turkey club, Franklin a BLT, Xavier a roast beef sub. They chatted about the detective agency idea, Jade tossing in suggestions about marketing. Franklin teased, "We'll name it Kincaid and Company Investigations. Has a nice ring." Xavier smirked. "Maybe, or something else. But we'll figure it out once the dust settles on Eugene's case." They finished eating, paid the tab. On the way out, Jade paused at a newsstand. The headline on a local paper read, "Corruption Scandal Widens Senator Implicated." Below it, a smaller subheading, "Anonymous Heroes Helped Expose Crime Ring." She exhaled. "I guess that's us," she murmured to Xavier. He gave her shoulder a gentle squeeze. "Anonymity is probably best for now. Let them talk, but we keep our heads down." Back at the apartment, Franklin parted ways, and Jade stepped onto the balcony, gazing at the skyline tinted with sunset hues. Xavier joined her, the two leaning on the railing, letting the wind ruffle their hair. "Beautiful, huh?" Jade said softly, watching city lights flicker on. "Never had a view like this." "It is," he agreed. "Reminds me life can still be amazing even after everything." She nodded, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Dad, do you think we'll ever be normal again?" He considered the question. "Normal might look different now. We've changed. But we can find a new kind of peace, maybe even a better life. We survived, Jade." She swallowed, eyes reflecting the city's glow. "Yeah, we did." A comfortable silence settled. The distant hum of traffic seemed almost soothing, a lullaby for the city that had witnessed their transformation. They stood there, father and daughter, bound by love, tested by betrayal, forging ahead into an uncertain but hopeful future. In that moment bathed in twilight, hearts beating in tandem, they felt the gentle promise of a fresh chapter. No bombs, no criminals, no secrets. Just them, determined to rebuild from the ashes. Days slipped into weeks. Life in the new apartment took on a tentative rhythm. Jade started online classes temporarily, not quite ready to return to her old high school. Xavier juggled errands, meeting with the DA, helping Jade adjust, fielding calls from Franklin about the potential detective agency. Megan remained largely absent, devoting most of her time to Stephanie's medical appointments. Occasional texts from her updated them on Stephanie's condition, stable, but always on a precarious edge without guaranteed funding. One morning, Jade rummaged the fridge for breakfast while Xavier sipped coffee, scanning news on his phone. The headlines still brimmed with corruption scandal revelations. Every day, a new official or crooked cop faced indictment. Eugene's name popped up repeatedly, rumored to be squealing about his partners in crime. The city was in uproar, but ironically, Xavier felt calmer. They were safe in the high-rise, away from the suburban battleground. Jade glanced at him. "Dad, I've been thinking, once I finish these online courses, I might want to re-enroll in a new school, maybe a private one in the city." He raised an eyebrow. "That's an option. You sure about private school? It can be pricey." She shrugged. "I want a fresh environment. People who don't know me as the girl with the gangster problem. Or the bomb girl. I just want a clean slate." His heart twisted. "Of course. We'll look into scholarships. I have some savings, plus we can see if there's financial aid." She gave him a soft smile. "Thanks, Dad." That afternoon, Franklin dropped by with Cole. Cole, the ex-detective, wore a business-casual outfit, hair neatly combed, a file folder under one arm. They settled in the living room, Jade politely retreating to her room for privacy. Cole cleared his throat. "Eugene's preliminary hearing is set for next week. The DA wants you both, especially Jade, available to confirm certain statements if needed. Probably not testifying yet, but if Eugene tries to claim you framed him or something, the DA might want you on standby." Xavier nodded. "We'll be there. Jade's mostly stable now, but it could be traumatic if they push her too hard." Franklin added, "The DA will keep it minimal for Jade, I hear. They have mountains of evidence. They just want to scare Eugene out of pulling any stunts." Xavier exhaled in relief. "Good. Last thing Jade needs is facing that psycho again in a courtroom meltdown." Cole scratched his chin. "There's also talk that some of Eugene's associates are still trying to intimidate witnesses. That might explain Jade's threatening text. The police are investigating, but no arrests yet." Xavier's eyes narrowed. "We haven't received more threats, so maybe they backed off." Franklin shrugged. "Or they're waiting. Anyway, we can arrange protective measures if needed." Xavier nodded, touched by their support. "I appreciate it." Cole set aside the Eugene business, pulling out a business card. "So about the detective agency. Franklin and I have been drafting a business plan. With your background, Xavier, as an Air Force pilot and your proven skill in dealing with high-stakes threats, we'd love you on board as a partner." Xavier's brow furrowed. "I'm honored, but I have no official PI license." Cole smiled. "We can fix that. I can fast-track you through the training and licensing as a retired detective sponsor. The local board will probably rubber stamp it, given your service record." Franklin grinned. "We call it Halcyon Investigations. A place people can turn to for real solutions, especially if they can't fully trust local authorities." "Halcyon, huh?" Xavier mused. "Peaceful name for a mission dealing with criminals." Cole nodded. "Exactly. Our motto, restoring peace of mind. We'll do everything by the book, no vigilante stuff, no questionable methods. But we won't be afraid to tackle corruption or complicated cases." Xavier's heart beat faster with a surge of purpose. He glanced around at the apartment, then at Jade's closed door. "I like the idea. Let me talk to Jade. I want to make sure she's comfortable with me diving into another high-risk job." Franklin nodded. "Of course. We're not rushing you. We just want to build the foundation soon. Possibly open next month." Xavier inhaled deeply. "Next month, huh?" Cole closed the file. "We'll keep you posted. Anyway, let's handle the Eugene hearing first." After they left, Jade emerged. "I overheard some. You're really going to open a detective agency with them? He rubbed his temples. They want me to. I'm torn. I do want to help people, and it's a legit job, but I also worry about you, if it puts a target on my back again. She sank onto the couch. Dad, I trust you. If you think you can handle it safely, I support you. I won't lie, some leftover fear is there, but I also see how restless you get with normal day-to-day stuff. You're a soldier at heart. You crave a mission. Her perceptiveness struck him. He sighed. Yeah, maybe that's true. I guess stopping Eugene gave me a sense of calling. She gave him a small smile. Then do it. But promise we'll set boundaries. If it gets too dangerous, you reconsider. He nodded firmly. Deal. The next week zipped by. Jade continued her online classes, arranged a Zoom call with a private school admissions counselor. Meanwhile, Xavier hammered out details with Franklin and Cole for the new agency. He also used the time to finalize selling, or effectively surrendering, the old suburban house to the bank. Let it go. The last tie to that traumatic fiasco. One evening, Jade received a text from Megan. Can we talk soon? I'm at the hospital with Steph, but she wants to see you. Jade showed it to Xavier, uncertain. He gently said, It's up to you, kiddo. Jade bit her lip. I guess I can see Aunt Stephanie. She's always been good to me, not her fault any of this happened. So the next day, they visited the hospital. Stephanie, pale and frail under fluorescent lights, greeted Jade with a tremulous smile, hugging her carefully. Megan hovered near the IV stand, tearful. Jade eased into conversation with her aunt, recalling childhood memories. The tension with Megan was still palpable, but overshadowed by Stephanie's precarious condition. Xavier lingered in a corner. He offered Megan a subdued hello. She cast him a pleading look, as though silently asking about the money for treatments. He nodded, gently indicating he'd handle it. That seemed to relieve her momentarily. They left the hospital after an hour. Jade was subdued, wiping silent tears in the car. Stephanie, she's so weak. She deserves better than this. Xavier set a hand on hers. I know. We'll do what we can. The world's not fair, but we'll fight for her. Jade sniffled. I hate that money decides who lives or dies. He sighed, no easy comfort to offer. Same. But we'll try everything: fundraisers, loans, maybe we can talk to charities, one step at a time. She nodded, lips pressed thin. Let me help if we do a fundraiser. I can spread the word online. He mustered a tired smile. That'd be good. We can do that. At the end of that week, the day of Eugene's preliminary hearing arrived. The courthouse stood downtown, a looming structure of stone columns. Xavier and Jade approached the steps with hearts pounding, escorted by Cole. The press milled about, snapping photos, yelling questions at lawyers or potential witnesses. Cole guided them inside swiftly, passing security checks. The DA's team greeted them, instructing them to wait in a side room. Jade fiddled nervously with her phone. Xavier rubbed her back. It's okay. We might not even go into the courtroom unless called. She nodded shakily. Just knowing he's in the building makes my skin crawl. They waited. Hours seemed to pass. The hearing was delayed because Eugene's lawyer filed last-minute motions. Finally, the DA breezed in, eyes sharp. We might need Jade for a short statement. Eugene's claiming the bomb was a fabrication. Ridiculous, but we want Jade to confirm the timeline in front of the judge if asked. Jade's face went pale. Okay. Xavier bristled. She shouldn't have to face that creep again. The DA spoke calmly. It'll be short. We'll keep Eugene at a distance. The judge just needs to hear from her to refute the nonsense. You can stand beside her if that helps. Jade swallowed, nodding. I can handle it, Dad. They entered the courtroom through a side door. The atmosphere was hushed, tension thick. Eugene sat at the defense table, wrists cuffed, a smug lawyer at his side. He looked thinner, hair unkempt, eyes filled with venom the moment he spotted Jade and Xavier. Jade stiffened, stepping behind her father slightly. The judge, a stern-looking woman with wire-rimmed glasses, glanced at them. Eugene's lawyer was mid-speech. And we contend the alleged bomb was never functional, a mere rumor planted to frame my client. He denies any involvement in the DA cut in. Your Honor, we have direct testimony from Jade Kincaid, who was in the house and saw the device, also from the defusal team that recovered said bombs. May we call Miss Kincaid to clarify? The judge nodded, beckoning Jade forward. She gulped, moving to the witness stand. Xavier's heart pounded. The bailiff swore her in. Jade's hands trembled as she placed them on the Bible, voice barely above a whisper as she affirmed to tell the truth. The DA asked gently, Miss Kincaid, can you describe what you observed regarding the bomb in your home? Jade forced a breath. Yes. I discovered wiring near the hallway closet. I saw these men who worked with Eugene mention a special package to blow up the house. They threatened me, told me not to say anything. The DA nodded. And who orchestrated that plan, to your knowledge? She flicked her gaze at Eugene, then quickly away. Eugene told them to do it. I overheard him brag about how my father, the pilot, would never see it coming. Eugene slammed a fist on the table, ignoring his lawyer's hush. Lies. She's lying. The judge rapped her gavel. Order. Mr. Hayes, you'll refrain from outbursts. Eugene glared daggers but slumped back in his seat. Jade trembled. The DA continued calmly. Thank you, Miss Kincaid. Did you see your father defuse the device or confirm it was real? She swallowed, glancing at Xavier in the audience. Yes, he defused it with a friend's help. The bombs were real. They were removed from our house by the police. It's all on record. The DA turned to the judge. No further questions. Your Honor, we have physical evidence of the bombs, too. Eugene's lawyer muttered something about cross-examination. The judge permitted a few superficial questions, which didn't rattle Jade. She stuck to her story, simply repeating the facts. The lawyer gave up, scowling. Stepping down from the stand, Jade walked back to Xavier, tears in her eyes. He gently placed an arm around her, whispering, You did great. The hearing continued. The DA submitted evidence photos of the bombs, plus a statement from Franklin's defusal notes. The judge skimmed them, expression grim. By the end, it was clear she wasn't buying Eugene's denials. She ruled that the case would proceed to trial, and Eugene would remain in custody without bail. His lawyer barked protests. The judge slammed her gavel, finalizing the matter. Eugene glowered as guards escorted him out. He shot Xavier and Jade a murderous glare. Cole guided them from the courtroom. Good job, Jade. You were brave up there, she exhaled shakily. I felt like I was going to puke, but I got through it. Xavier squeezed her shoulder. I'm proud of you. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for statements. The DA's office whisked them away, letting them exit from a side door. By the time they reached the street, Jade's tension had ebbed, replaced by relief. That evening, back in their apartment, father and daughter shared takeout pizza, decompressing from the stressful day. Jade wore an oversized hoodie, trying to calm the nerves still buzzing in her body. She asked quietly, So he's officially locked up until trial? Xavier nodded, taking a bite of pizza. Yeah, no bail, he can't roam free. She stared at the city lights outside their window. That's good, but I hate that we even had to speak to him again. I know, he murmured. You were strong, Jade. You faced him and told the truth. That helps the justice system do its job. She mustered a half-smile. I guess. He eyed her thoughtfully. Maybe we can plan something fun tomorrow to unwind. A museum, a movie. She perked up slightly. A museum might be cool. I've never gone to the big art museum downtown. He patted her knee. Then it's a date. Late that night, while Jade slept, Xavier found himself restless. He stepped onto their balcony, the city skyline lit with neon signs and streaming headlights. The air was cool, but he barely felt it. His mind churned with lingering thoughts about Eugene, the trial, the future detective agency, and Megan's plight. His phone buzzed. A text from Franklin. Heard Jade did awesome. You guys can breathe easy now. Let's talk business soon. Halcyon Investigations awaits. Xavier typed back, Absolutely. Give me a day or two. Taking Jade to the museum tomorrow to unwind. Franklin replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Setting the phone aside, Xavier gazed out into the vastness of the city. He realized he felt something akin to hope. The immediate crisis was behind them. Eugene was locked up, the preliminary hearing a success. Jade was healing, bit by bit. He thought of Megan, feeling a swirl of conflicted emotions, anger, pity, maybe a thread of compassion. She was at least trying to do better now. In time, perhaps they could find a measure of forgiveness or civility for Jade's sake. He wouldn't rush it, though. In the hush of that night, high above the busy streets, Xavier reflected on how far they'd come. From a bomb-rigged suburban home to a safe downtown refuge, from living in terror to testifying in court. Jade was strong beyond her years, and he felt a profound sense of gratitude for that. He inhaled the crisp air, heart steady. Tomorrow they'd enjoy an art museum. The day after, he'd start shaping his new career with Cole and Franklin, helping others who might be trapped by criminals like Eugene. He'd do it legally, systematically, offering a lifeline in a broken system. He closed his eyes, letting the city's distant hum soothe him. For the first time, he believed they had a future that wasn't defined by fear or betrayal, but by resilience and purpose. And that, for now, was enough. Morning light drifted across the white walls of the apartment as Xavier and Jade prepared for their museum outing. Jade actually seemed excited, carefully choosing her outfit, a black t-shirt with a subtle artistic design, comfortable jeans and sneakers. Her once wary eyes now shone with a flicker of teenage anticipation, something Xavier hadn't seen in a long time. "Ready for some culture?" he teased, grabbing the car keys. She wrinkled her nose playfully. "As long as I can handle it in small doses." They caught the elevator down, greeting the front desk guard, who nodded politely. Outside, the city bustled. The crisp air carried a hint of early autumn. They hopped into Xavier's car, heading toward the city's main art district. Inside the museum, echoes of footsteps and hushed voices bounced off marble floors. Jade wandered from exhibit to exhibit, occasionally snapping pictures with her phone. Paintings, sculptures, interactive installations, she took them all in with a quiet curiosity. Xavier trailed behind, a content half-smile on his face. He was no art expert, but seeing Jade engaged in something beyond their painful past filled him with gratitude. For an hour, they strolled in companionable silence, letting color and creativity wash over them. At a modern art section, Jade paused in front of a massive abstract painting, wild splashes of red and black. She tilted her head. "Kinda looks like how I felt during the worst of the Eugene stuff. Chaotic, angry." Xavier placed a hand on her shoulder. "Art imitates life, I guess." She hummed thoughtfully, continuing on. He realized in that moment how strong she truly was. She'd faced bombs, captivity, betrayal by her own mother's choices, yet here she stood, forging a new path. Later, they grabbed lunch in the museum cafe, sandwiches and sodas. The bustling chatter of other patrons wrapped around them. Jade sipped her soda, glancing around. "Dad, I'm happy we did this. It's nice to just be normal people doing normal stuff." He grinned softly. "Me too. We deserve it." She bit her lip. "I know you're thinking about your detective business. I want you to do it, but can we keep days like this? Where it's just father-daughter?" He covered her hand with his. "Absolutely. That's a promise." A comfortable silence settled. Jade eventually rummaged in her phone, showing him silly memes she found. He chuckled, the tension that once gripped them nowhere in sight. For a moment, he allowed himself to believe they were well on the path to healing. That afternoon, after they left the museum, Xavier decided to swing by a local community center that offered therapy and counseling. He was determined to get Jade professional help, not just rely on her internal resilience. They parked outside a modest building with a mural of smiling families. Jade squinted at the sign. "Dad, you think I need therapy?" He gently ushered her forward. "I think we both do. Let's see what they offer. We can do separate sessions, family sessions, whatever works." She looked uncertain, but then gave a tiny nod. "Okay." Inside, they spoke to a receptionist who explained the center's mental health program. It catered to trauma survivors, including teens dealing with violence or domestic issues. Perfect for Jade's situation, and likely beneficial for Xavier too. They filled out initial forms, scheduling an intake appointment for the following week. Leaving the center, Jade's expression was pensive but not resistant. "Therapy. Feels weird, but maybe it'll help, yeah?" He slipped an arm around her shoulders. "It usually does." Back at the apartment, Jade retreated to her room, presumably to watch Netflix or FaceTime a friend. Xavier found himself responding to emails from Cole. They had hammered out a name, Halcyon Investigations, and found a small office space near City Hall. It was modest, but serviceable. 2 private rooms, a reception area, and enough space to expand if business boomed. He browsed photos of the office on his laptop, forwarded by Franklin. A grin tugged at his lips. He pictured them setting up desks, welcoming clients. The thrill of a new purpose stirred in his gut. Before finalizing anything, though, he wanted Jade's blessing. She'd already given it verbally, but he wanted to ensure no second thoughts lingered. Later, Jade emerged for dinner, simple chicken stir-fry at the kitchenette. Over the meal, he broached the topic. "So I might sign the lease on an office for Halcyon Investigations tomorrow. Are you 100% cool with that?" She paused, chopsticks midair. "I am. If it's what you want, Dad. I told you I'm okay with it." She forced a smile. "Though I might ask for a bulletproof vest for your birthday." He chuckled, ruffling her hair. "Not a bad idea. We'll keep it all above board. I have to do some licensing courses with Cole. Nothing too intense. Then we're official." She nodded, eyes shining with a mix of pride and caution. "Just be safe. I can't lose you." He squeezed her hand. "You won't." Over the next week, the swirl of events continued. Xavier attended a mandatory licensing session with Cole, filling out reams of paperwork, retaking basic tests on local laws. Meanwhile, Jade started therapy, initially one or none. After the first session, she came home teary but said it helped to talk openly. Megan texted occasionally. "Stephanie's stable but needs next chemo soon. Hospital is pressing for payment." Jade read these messages with a pang of guilt, uncertain if she should respond. She told Xavier that she wasn't ready to see Megan frequently, though she cared about Stephanie's fate. He assured Jade that he'd handle it. Over phone calls and emails, he arranged partial payments with the hospital finance office, scraping together funds from his military pension, plus some leftover from his savings. It wasn't enough to cover all future treatments, but it bought Stephanie time. The hospital agreed to keep her on the chemo track for now, pending more stable arrangements. Megan sounded tearfully grateful in a short phone call. Xavier maintained a polite distance, promising only to help with finances for Stephanie's sake. Meanwhile, the city's media continued unveiling corrupt officials. The senator at the scandal's core resigned under pressure, pending criminal charges. City Hall braced for new elections. The DA's office prepared the main trial against Eugene, slated for a few months away. Jade wouldn't have to appear in court again unless new developments arose, to her immense relief. Then came a phone call from the DA. Xavier answered late one afternoon, finding the DA's tone brisk. "We discovered another threat message from an associate of Eugene's. This one targeted a different witness. The police arrested him quickly. Thought you'd like to know. They suspect he's the same guy who texted Jade." Xavier felt a wave of relief. "So they got him?" "Yes, he's in custody. We believe that closes the circle of immediate threats. You and Jade should be safe from further harassment." He thanked the DA, hung up. When he relayed the news to Jade, she sagged with relief. "Finally, so that burner phone creep is gone?" "Seems like it." She fell silent, tears glistening. "I guess we can breathe freely now, huh?" He hugged her. "Yes, baby girl, we can." With the immediate threat neutralized, Jade's spirits rose. She spent more time exploring the city, sometimes with new friends from her therapy group. They'd grab coffee or visit the bookstore. Xavier, while protective, gradually let her roam, trusting the building's security and the general safety of daytime downtown. She kept her phone on, texting him updates. One evening, Jade returned from a bookstore trip carrying a paper bag. She plopped on the couch, handing him a book. "For you." He took it, reading the title, Meditation for Stress Relief. He arched a brow. "You think I need to meditate?" She shrugged, smiling. "You carry a lot on your shoulders. Might help." He smirked. "Thanks, Doc." But a warm gratitude filled him. She was looking out for him, just as he did for her. As the trial date loomed on the horizon, Halcyon Investigations took shape. Franklin, Cole, and Xavier signed a lease on a small second-floor office near City Hall. They painted the walls a soothing blue, set up second-hand desks, and installed a lockable file cabinet for sensitive cases. A cheap security camera pointed at the front door. Jade visited once, giggling at their ragtag HQ, but was proud to see them forging ahead. They had business cards printed, a simple design featuring the name, phone number, and a tagline, "When you need truth and protection." Cole took Xavier to meet local attorneys who might refer clients. The synergy felt promising. A few potential customers already expressed interest, mostly for background checks or personal security. One late afternoon, Jade popped by after her therapy session, bringing coffee for everyone. She admired the newly hung sign on the office door, "Halcyon Investigations," in bold letters. "Nice sign," she joked. "Looks almost legit." Xavier took his coffee. "It is legit, Miss Sass." He gave her a playful nudge. She beamed. "I'm just proud of you, Dad." Meanwhile, Megan's calls grew sporadic. She stayed mostly at the hospital with Stephanie, who was starting to show mild improvement with the ongoing chemo. The tension between Megan and Jade remained, though Jade occasionally sent encouraging texts for her aunt's sake. Xavier felt no immediate urge to push them closer. Healing would take time. He did notice, however, that each time he covered a chunk of Stephanie's medical bills, Megan expressed gratitude, sounding almost penitent. A part of him softened, remembering the woman he once loved. Another part remained guarded. Betrayal scars run deep. Still, Jade sometimes asked, "You think we'll ever be a family again, Dad?" He would sigh. "I don't know. Maybe not in the same sense, but we can be civil for sure for your sake. If Megan keeps working on herself, maybe one day we mend some pieces." Jade usually accepted that answer, stoic yet wistful. The day arrived for the official soft opening of Halcyon Investigations. They weren't expecting a parade of clients, but it marked the business's official start. Franklin, Cole, and Xavier wore semi-formal attire, took a group photo with Jade as the office photographer. Jade teased them, "Smile like you actually like each other." Afterwards, Jade said her farewells. She had an afternoon therapy session. She parted with a wave and a grin, wishing them luck. The men set about organizing the front reception, hooking up a phone line. A slight lull in the afternoon let them chat about next steps. Cole suggested networking with domestic violence shelters, offering pro bono investigations if survivors suspected corrupt interference. Franklin pitched the idea of corporate security consulting. Xavier listened, heart thrumming with excitement. He realized this was exactly what he needed: purposeful work, hopefully preventing others from experiencing the hell Jade endured. Imagine if Megan had known about a place like this, he thought silently. Could she have avoided Eugene's trap? The question lingered, fueling his resolve to succeed in this new mission. That evening, father and daughter reconvened in the apartment. Jade collapsed on the couch, groaning about a lengthy therapy session, but seemed proud that she was facing her traumas head-on. Xavier plopped beside her, the day's exhaustion evident but overshadowed by quiet contentment. They ate a simple dinner, homemade spaghetti. Afterward, Jade turned on some music, a chill acoustic playlist. They listened together, letting the calm wash over them. City lights twinkled beyond the windows, reminding them how far they'd come from that suburban nightmare. Eventually, Jade spoke, voice hushed. "Dad, I'm really happy for you. Halcyon Investigations, therapy, new apartment. We might not have a perfect life, but it's ours. And it's better than living in fear." He smiled, ruffling her hair. "Couldn't have done it without you, kiddo. You're my strength." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You're mine, too. We got each other's backs." He swallowed the knot of emotion in his throat. "Always." In that gentle moment, city lights reflecting in their eyes, an acoustic guitar strumming softly from Jade's phone, father and daughter found a haven of solace. The bomb-scarred house was gone. Eugene was locked away. Megan was forging her own redemption path, and Stephanie still fought her cancer, but with a chance. The future was uncertain, yet promise shimmered in each breath. Time eased forward. Jade soon transitioned to a new private school, forging fresh friendships, her nightmares decreasing in frequency thanks to therapy. Xavier devoted hours to Halcyon Investigations, discovering a knack for calming frightened clients, patiently gathering facts, and coordinating with Cole's ex-cop tactics. Franklin joked that Xavier's serious soldier face could make suspects crack in minutes. Megan continued caring for Stephanie. Gradual improvements in her sister's health brought relief. Financially, it remained precarious, but combined with Xavier's partial payments and a hospital charity program, Stephanie clung to hope. Megan occasionally texted Jade, receiving polite but guarded replies. The tension thawed inch by inch, leaving the door to a partial reconciliation open, though they all understood trust wouldn't be rebuilt overnight. As the weeks turned into months, the Eugene trial commenced, with Jade spared from testifying again thanks to overwhelming evidence. Eugene rotted behind bars, ranting about conspiracies. The city reeled from scandal but slowly marched toward reform, new officials stepping up to fill the void left by corrupt resignations. On a clear autumn day, father and daughter stood on their balcony, gazing at the horizon. A gentle breeze ruffled Jade's hair. She was older, wiser for her ordeal, forging ahead with determined resilience. Xavier likewise felt tempered by the fires of betrayal and violence. He was neither naive nor broken, he was a protector, forging a new legacy through halcyon investigations. The notion that their darkest chapter had birthed a renewed sense of purpose felt poetic in a way, like forging steel from raw, battered iron. They turned, stepping back inside the warm glow of the apartment, leaving the city's roar outside. Life wasn't perfect or simple, but it was theirs to rebuild together. And for Xavier and Jade Kincaid, that was triumph enough. Hey, listeners of Temptress Cheating